Alrighty, guys, welcome to the Ethebarberpodcast. Today we have our friend here, Tyler Rodda, and he's gonna be talking to us a little bit about his experience in his university that he went to, and his journey, his college career, and how all that brought him to become the person that he is today.
Yes, sir. Let's do it.
Let's do it. So, kind of like a little bit of your journey when you went to high school. Did you think you were gonna go to college right away, or how did you choose your college?
I would say so. My parents were big advocates for it because they did say that it was like it was a big thing, that it was necessary because it puts you above other people is kind of how they framed it at the beginning.
Yeah. And like you get more ahead in life.
It has that
advantage to it.
It has that essence to it, and picking the college more cost oriented. Because I was not making a lot of money at that time, and neither was my parents, and so it's like you got to really pick your school. So aside from that, it was also the educational system that I'm looking for, as far as like whether or not their programs are good, or whether or not they're gonna have like the kind of like the vibe or like the feeling that you want to be there, that kind of thing.
And you were like, I'm looking for architecture. Was that your mindset since the beginning, or did something like mold you into that? Like, what was your mind at? Were you always like, I want to be an architecture person, or?
Actually, it was kind of funny. I wanted to be a lawyer at one point, and then I realized I was like, I don't know if I'd want that headache all the time.
Oh yeah, having to deal with that.
I don't think they sleep much.
Yeah, all the problems they have to deal with.
Well, yeah, they're just the constant being on your toes kind of vibe, and that's one of the things that we'll get in here today about this is. It's a big factor of it. It's kind of just like, what are you willing to put yourself through as far as picking the profession? And so like for me, I like high stakes environment. I kind of function better in those environments. And so architecture was a happy medium of like not necessarily losing my sanity, but also being able to like go crazy sometimes.
Okay.
So I think from about maybe 14 is kind of when architecture started to like set its route in as far as what I wanted to do for a profession. But before that, it was lawyer, and that was because I was good at arguing. So.
Oh my god, most kids around that age they're all good at arguing. My little brothers, when even at their age right now, sometimes they can get a little argumentative.
Yeah, I know, right?
And they gotta be right. I'm just like, let's take a step back.
And sometimes even if it's not your own kids, you just like. You kind of have to like go with it. You're just like, man, I can't really do much.
Yeah, no, it's hard. I get you.
Oh man, no, it was pretty good. It was pretty good.
No, that's good. So you went to college, and you had a kind of, like you said, in your mind, you were like, I want to be, architecture, and then you go to school. And what's your experience with like professors and stuff? Like, was it really easy to choose professors? Did someone guide you? Did you have a mentor at all, or was it all just learning everything on your own?
Well, so when you get there, when like in college, you have an advisor that's specific to the students that are entering. And so freshmen, you go and you meet with this advisor typically on your visiting day, which I would highly recommend people go to, just because it gives you an idea of like where you're going to be at, what you're going to be doing, who you're going to be around, that kind of thing. And then it kind of gives you that little like in to talk to professors, get to know everybody that you're going to be interacting with. But on that day, you'll go in and you'll meet with your advisor, and that's basically someone who kind of gets you set up as like, okay, what's kind of like your major? What are your interests? What do you want to do? What kind of classes are you looking to take? Kind of like, how are you wanting to set up your college education? Because a lot of college education is putting the deciding factor into your hands.
Yeah.
And so it's giving you that kind of adult kind of feeling.
Control, so you feel like you know
control.
What you're doing.
And so it's not like high school where it's like, okay, you can pick your electives.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can pick art, you can pick shop, you can pick all this other stuff. But like in high school, you get like science, math, English, this kind of stuff. And in college, you have your prerequisites, but that's only for the first 2-3 years of college. After that, it's kind of like you're off on your own, picking your own things. But in the first year, you are meeting with an advisor, you're talking, you're trying to figure out what it is that you want, and it's a lot more on your plate as far as you can choose what you want to do. You still have to meet those requirements, but it's still a lot more free choice.
Okay, so you kind of you got your own you got to make your own choices when it came to how you molded your education.
Yeah, so in my first year, like I had to take a comms class, I had to take an English class, I had to take a math class, and then I had to take physics and what was the other science class? I don't remember. But like those were the requirements, the prerequisites just for my major.
For your major, which was architecture.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so in addition to those prereqs, you have your core specific classes, which are going to be like, for me, it was Arc 151, which is an introduction to architecture. And then I had 2 art classes that fall semester. And then I had like my English course, my English 101. And then I think I took Stats 251 as my math course there. Okay. There's a lot of like other case-specific aspects that, like for me, because my, what are they called? The SBAC scores that we took? You remember those middle school tests that we took? They're like standardized tests in order to like
tests,
placement tests. Yeah, those kinds of things. And so like those were tests that you could like apply or bring with you and be like, here, I took these tests. This should cover this, and this credit when you get to college. My SBAC scores didn't count, and so I had to test into a math class in order for it to be normal, I guess. Mm-hmm. And so I had to take Stats 251 because I didn't pass the initial like test assessment they did, and it was like an online thing. And so from there, one of the prerequisites that I had to have was Math 183, I believe. Okay. And that's just algebra level math that's kind of reminding you of the math you learned in high school so that you were coherent throughout the rest of the year or the rest of the schooling that you're going to be doing. And so I took Stats 251 and then I took Math 180 and then I was done with all of my math credits after that.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah, so you do that and then your whole experience while you're going to school, are you also doing like other things like sports and stuff like that?
Yeah. They have a whole bunch of intramural sports, which is not like the actual university sports. They're like groups that you get together and you can create your own sport. So like for me, I was part of the snowboarding club.
Oh, snowboarding club.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. And they did like every weekend they would go up. And it's not something that you sign up and you're tied to. You can like pick and choose when you go. Oh, well, but you still kind of like participate within the group and you gain new friends, new acquaintances. And so they have stuff like that. Like our school even had a Quidditch team.
A Quidditch? Oh.
From Harry Potter.
Oh, that game.
Yeah, like they're flying around on broomsticks. My dorm room, dude. I had like a front row seat to this stuff in the fall. Oh my god. It was so hilarious to watch. The like you see these guys that are just like running around with their broomsticks and
they're like just holding it. Oh my gosh.
It was hilarious. And I'm sitting there, I'm just like, yo, dinner and a show? Dang, this is nice.
That's crazy. And you had pretty much front row seating from your own place where you're staying.
So like the intramural sports, they can get pretty creative and people can like they basically just create what they want, and if you got like a following of people that want to join you in this,
then you're good.
Yeah, you just gotta go get it approved, and then you get it like you organize that it's an intramural sport, and
did you ever think about starting anything like that when you were there, or
I'm sure I probably had thoughts of it, but my main focus at the point was just like getting through the prereqs so that I could focus on my education.
You were like, I'm here for a purpose. I'm trying to get out of
it. That's one of the things that I highly suggest is that like if you're gonna venture out into a university or college, is to have a reason for why you're there. Because like you got the college experience. Yeah, okay? That's fun. That's great. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, why are you there?
Yeah,
it's like asking yourself, what do I want out of this? Because college, as scary as it might seem to some, the purpose is figuring out what you want as an individual. And so the school is basically like, here's tools.
Yeah. Figure it out.
Figure something out that you want to do with them.
Yeah.
Here's the knowledge. Here is the resources. Here are the materials, and we are here to guide you in such a way that is going to align you with what you want. So it's kind of like you get like a long time as compared to maybe what you might get out if you didn't go to college. You get some time to kind of figure out what it is that you want to do instead of having to like be forced into it. And I think that can be very beneficial for some people. But then you've got your adrenaline junkies that are just like, let's do it.
Yeah. And I feel like too, sometimes people will go to college and they'll be like, oh, I'm just going to college because, like you said, it's the right thing to do and all that, but without a purpose. They just go, oh, you know what, I want to go to school.
Yeah.
And they just like, oh, as long as I get my prerequisites, you know, I'll be all right, you know. And and it's good, of course, to get your prerequisites.
Yeah.
But I feel like it can be kind of like maybe potentially a bad idea to jump into something that you're not fully committed to, you know.
Definitely. It's like I've seen a couple of
like wasting your time in a way, huh?
In a way, it's kind of like that, and that's like a harsh way of saying it, but unfortunately, that's just the truth. Is like I've had a couple of friends that went to, oh gosh, where did they go? Was it WSU or was it Eastern? I think it was Eastern. Anyway, they went to college and they didn't know what they wanted to do, and you know that's not a bad thing. Okay?
Yeah,
don't be discouraged. It's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
And you know that's kind of what college is for. Is like, what do you want to do?
Okay.
Yeah. And so like he went to college and he didn't know what he wanted to do, and so he's like, okay, well I'll try this, and he gets in that, and he
chose something.
He chose a major, and he chose something to follow.
Okay.
And so he follows it for about a year or two, I think it was, and then he's like, I'm just not liking this. I don't want to continue, and so he has to take a step back, go back to his advisor, talk to her, and be like, hey, I'm not liking this, and then you have to go and find another major. And so it's helpful. It's not better. It's helpful to have an idea of what you want to do when you get there. So that, one, you're not wasting money if you are spending the money on it, and you don't have the luxury of
just choosing going around.
What are the scholarships?
Or scholarships,
if you don't have the luxury of scholarships, or if you don't have like the luxury of a parent or person that is providing the funds for the education for you, because there are people out there that have that and take serious advantage of it.
Oh yeah, they just
rampant at U of I specifically. Like I don't even want to get into that, but you got to pay attention to what is going into and use your time effectively, not necessarily efficiently, because that could get misinterpreted.
Oh yeah.
But I say you definitely got to know what it is that you would like to do, or have a general sense that is going to make it a little bit easier to kind of navigate college, so that you're able to get the most out of it.
Yeah, because like we were saying too, like you could waste more money. You know, if you don't have an idea, and I feel like too, like potentially it'd be good, not necessarily to, like you said, sometimes you might not know exactly what you want to do.
Yeah.
But I feel like maybe it'd be a very good idea to do very deep research on some ideas of what you might want to do.
Yeah.
So you don't just go in blindfolded and just, you know, kind of jump into something and then you're like regret it later, like, oh my gosh. But I also feel like, you know, you mentioned something about like, you know, sometimes people just don't, like your friend, right? They eventually just, they don't really feel like it's a good, like they like it, or they, and I feel like that could be a way that might not be the best to move in a career just based off your feelings. And the reason why I say that is because, like, sometimes I cut hair all the time, right? And sometimes you don't feel like cutting hair that day.
Yeah, exactly.
You're just like, but I gotta meet, you know, my customers, and I gotta give them the best energy, and you know.
Yeah.
And I feel like even in any career that people choose, like, ultimately you won't find true happiness and fulfillment in a certain career. You might have all the time. Yeah, you'll have moments of happiness.
Yeah.
But you will not have this like, this is the one, and every day I wake up and I'm just happy. Some people might be there, that might be real, but I feel like the chances of having a career like that is very slim. Or maybe in the early stages of your career, like me, early cutting stages, I'm just like super full of just this excitement.
Yeah.
And then eventually, you know, just it becomes it plateaus, and then, you know, it just rides in a different wave, you know. But I feel like it's good to have that that prior knowledge that you're just like, okay, I'm gonna go into a career. I might not enjoy all the time.
Yeah.
But there will be good moments.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly. And I think that's like that. One of the benefits of college is that aspect is kind of like it gives you that like buffer period to kind of figure that out and learn that, because that's something that you have to go through in order to experience. And to your point about like, you know, like you're gonna have moments of happiness, and I call them moments of testing. And so it's like it's like all right, so you've been doing this for what, how long have you been cutting hair for?
Probably like 10 years.
10 years? And, you know, like, you've been there for 10 years, and so you've had some ups and downs. You've experienced times where it's like, man, I don't know if I'm going to make this month, or if I'm going to like, get customers this month. Like, if you get discouraged sometimes because, like, maybe you're not advertising enough. Or people
that happens sometimes.
Or, like, popping your name into conversations, be like, hey, you need a haircut? Go check out East Barber. And this is like, so there's moments, but those are moments that are going to, it's like, okay, do I want to continue? Is this something that I can get through?
That's true.
Can I make it to the next day?
Yeah, it's like testing. You're getting tested every time.
Yeah, because newsflash, everything in life is hard.
Exactly.
It's always difficult until you figure out how to do it.
Yeah.
And so those moments of testing where you're like, I'm not having a good day, or this isn't a happy moment. And it's like, okay, but will tomorrow be better?
Yeah.
And I feel like that if you can kind of come to terms with that understanding, it makes those moments just a little bit easier.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot of what you're able to kind of test within college as compared to someone who has to do something in order to make a check or make next month's bills or get food for your family, that kind of thing.
At that point, you don't even have a choice.
Yeah.
It's like you better go to work.
you better go to work, or else you're not going to be able to do this, or you're not going to be able to get that that gift or something for what you want for your family.
Or you're kicked out.
Yeah, or you get evicted. You can lose like your devices, like all these physical objects, water bottles or cell phones, all these things that we have. We like, these are superficial, and they're not necessarily ours, because, I mean, this is a little bit of a tangent, but like a lot of the things that we pay for that are going to be high priced, we don't necessarily pay for outright. We pay for over the course of time.
Oh, and credit. Well, yeah, it's kind of like how everyone gets most things now.
Yeah, and so it's like it's payment period or credit, like you're talking about, and so it's like you don't necessarily own it until you pay it off. And even then, because houses, if you go bankrupt, they can take your house.
Yep.
And that's just a thing that can happen. And so it's like, yeah, it's yours, but it's still an asset that can be taken away from you, because that's what gives you your value. Not gives you your value. That's not a good way of saying that. But it's like it's an asset of yours that can be taken from you.
Yeah. So like it's never truly yours.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think coming to terms with that aspect is important, and part of that is what you can learn from college in that time. So like, you know, I'm sure you've probably had this. Your teachers in high school are like, you know, your professors in college aren't going to do this.
Oh yeah.
Your professors in college
they're not going to tolerate this.
Your professors in college are the same as you. Like they're there to help you, but they are also there with their own ideas in mind. So like they're there to teach a specific aspect of their topic. They're there to teach a specific like way of approach to that topic. Each person there is like, what's his name? Mushu from Kung Fu Panda?
Okay.
What's his name?
Honestly, I don't remember the names of
the turtle. Do you remember the turtle?
I don't understand.
The Oogway, Master Oogway from Kung Fu Panda.
Oh, there you go.
He is the person that has all the knowledge in the movie Kung Fu Panda. He shares that knowledge with Fishu, the little rat dude. I don't remember his name.
Oh my god! But the little rat, dude. Hey, just say the animals. Just talk
the one that Poe learns from, the little rat guy. He's the teacher to Poe. He's the teacher to Tigress. He's the teacher to Snake. He's the teacher to Crane. He's the teacher to Monkey, and he is the learner from Master Oogway. And Master Oogway, at one point, kind of just like disappears, and so it's like that person is a teacher. You are gaining knowledge from those people,
but at some point, they're gone.
Yeah, they're gone, and so in college. Learn to use them. Like, they're there for you. It may not seem like it all the time, but that's because they also have a life outside of college. Like, it's not just professor 24/7. They can be there outside when you need it, but like, they also have their own lives, just like you also have your own life. And so, use the resources that you have at college. They're there to help you.
Yeah, I used to have a really good math teacher, and he was always like down to help us out after school, so I would stay after school and just kind of get some help. And
like Mr. Colgren. You remember Mr. Colgren?
Mr. Colgren,
Mr.
He would do that, wouldn't he?
Yeah, he for at one point he did it for me specifically, just because my mom like, hey, Mr. Colgren, he knows math. I'm struggling in math.
Yeah.
Would you be willing to spend an hour on Wednesdays once a week to just help me with math?
That's so sick.
He was so willing to do it, and it's
that's
like
so beautiful. That's
you go out and you ask him. He's just like, I just need a little bit of your time. That's it. And 9 times out of 10, people are going to be more than willing to go and help you. For instance,
because they see the desire in you, like the heart. They're like, oh, this guy really wants to learn, like, And I feel like seeing people nowadays even just trying to learn, it's like it's the rare, because a lot of people are just kind of like, So it's like when you see people with effort, with a passion, or with like a desire to grow, it's like, let me help you out. Like
let me like help you.
Because you want to be helped.
And
like,
it's
more enjoyable to help someone who wants help.
It's the incentive that the person gets that's going to be doing the helping. Because like you've got money as an incentive, which is like if you go into like a third party program that is like extra learning outside of school, like Sylvan, they charge for their services, and so like you can pay like a weekly or monthly amount, and you can go and get math help or English help from them. But there's money, there's trade goods, like you can like, hey, I'm gonna give you a beer if you do this, or I'm gonna buy you a 10-pack for this, that kind of thing. And then you also have like just the feeling of doing something. Like you see, like you were talking about, you see the passion, you see the want, you see the drive to learn, to be better. That feeling, seeing that from someone, and then seeing the reward that they get once they learn the information, that's rewarding to the person who taught them.
Oh yeah.
And I think that's one of the big ones that people forget about in terms of like when they are looking for incentives and things. So like for college, a lot of it is hard work. A lot of it is you're going to be reading a book. You're going to be studying a paper. You're going to be writing about something you don't want to write about. Like I had to write a paper that was not conveying the message that I wanted it to convey, but because I needed to get the assignment done, I had to write it in such a way that was just, here's the assignment. Where can I take that work and apply it to something else? That kind of thing. And so it's like, you're going to be doing things you don't want to do. But it's going to be rewarding once you figure out how to do it, because then you get to teach other people.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a reward system in itself.
Yeah. Well, they say you once you can teach somebody else, like, you finally learned it. So it's like to seek to get to that point is probably one of the best things ever. Like, just like, I could finally teach someone.
It's a good feeling.
Yeah.
And it's you gotta like kind of relish in it sometimes.
Yeah.
And you don't always have to be incentivized with cash. You don't always have to be incentivized with objects.
Yeah.
Sometimes those are just like, you do something nice out of like the kindness of your heart, and you receive something in return. You're just like, I didn't expect this.
Yeah.
But now I have this.
Yeah. For me, honestly, sometimes one of the greatest rewards for me is like to see someone experience joy.
Yeah.
Like some people will tell me, they'll be like, Enrique, you've been to that hike like 50 times. And I'm just like, yeah, I've been to it like 50 times with different people.
Yeah.
Like my cousins, my nephews, And then they're like, every time that I take someone new, they're like so happy and excited to see it, and just seeing them, enjoying a new view to them.
Yeah.
Like that brings me joy.
Exactly. That's the way it is. It's the feeling of it.
Just seeing the joy, and now we're bringing it back to education. Like the joy that even that professor would get by just teaching you, by being there for you,
And there's professors there that like show up with this attitude. Then there's professors that show up that don't necessarily have it, but it's in there. Yeah. It's in there. You know it is. And sometimes you kind of have to like for instance, you have to be that student that's like wants to know more or wants to go ask.
You have to dig in.
And so then that kind of like it makes it show.
Yeah.
And you receive from that professor more than you would just on their basic level.
It's kind of like they see your commitment, your level of commitment, and your desire to grow.
Yeah.
And kind of moving more forward from when it comes to you going to school, your professors, and developing your career and all that. Was there any professors that kind of like made you be like, you know what? I think I'm gonna have an opportunity in the field later, like that they knew, they had connections pretty much, that kind of like helped you eventually, because obviously now you actually work doing architecture.
I'm in the process of
or in the process, but was there anybody who connected you, like, in there? Do you think that's a key thing, like to tell people like, hey, you know what, make sure that you build good connections, don't burn bridges with professors, type thing.
Yeah, of course.
Was there one in specific who helped you?
I would say yes. Actually, there's three.
Or a few specific.
There's three specifically that have been really good resources as far as contacts. What's it called? Not socializing. Networking. That's the word.
Networking. Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah.
So there's been one particularly that has been great for that. His name is Bruce Hagelin. Man, that guy is a book of knowledge. He is so smart. He has contacts around the world. He knows people that are doing some phenomenal work. And he's an ECS professor. He does environmental control systems, and so it's basically like the technology that goes into heating a space, that goes into cooling a space, making sure that your outlets are working at a max efficient power, and so that the Nest thermostats and stuff like that. He kind of teaches how to integrate those within the building environment in a more mindful way. But he has given me a lot of connections and networking opportunities for the interests that I have, which is primarily in the psychology of architecture.
The psychology?
And, the psychology. It can be pretty psychological if you get into the deep of it. Like the color of the room affects how we talk to each other.
Oh my!
It can. The way it like echoes the sound, that can affect how you talk to someone.
Wow.
Yeah, and so he has given me not only knowledge but also context that I can like, hey, I have a question. I know you're a professional. I really want to just learn about this. Can I get an hour of your time?
Wow.
And sometimes that hour is just all it needs to just like take you to that next level.
Wow.
And it's just about, what are you looking for? Where can you get that information? Who's around you? And doing it. That's the big step. You got to do it.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to do it.
Yeah, because there's people like they're right about to the point where they can, reach the next level, but then they get nervous and they just
They get nervous, or they're like, but I can't. Like, I don't want to like bother them. I don't want to like take their time because I know they're a busy person. It could be those internal struggles. It could also be the ones where it's like you're fighting. Like, it's like, okay, I don't have time. Like, I got to go do this. I got to go do this. And it's like, make the time.
Yeah.
You can, hey, boss, I can't come into work the back half of the day. I will be here and I will work hard the first half. But the back half of the day, I need to do this.
Yeah.
Take
Communication.
Yeah. It's taking that time. You don't have to tell them everything.
Oh, yeah, I know.
You just be honest with them. Be like, I'm not coming in the half day. I need to take this half day.
Yeah.
And so it's just like about making that time to do these things. Like getting up on a Sunday to do a podcast.
Huh.
Like you could be at home watching TV, going to church. You could be doing all the things you want to do on a Sunday, but you're here with a podcast, getting information from me and sharing it with everybody else.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like you're making the time.
Yeah, when you want something, you find time.
Yeah.
Or you make time.
Or you find ways to merge things together.
Yeah. You get a win-win.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So that was one of the professors.
Yeah.
And what other ones did you have that kind of, helped you out when it comes to your career and kind of getting the connections that you needed as well with the architecture and your future career, because you said right now you're in the process of getting in the field.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So the other one was as far as like ideas of where I can channel what I've learned. Mm-hmm. So it may not be just getting information from people. It may not have networking opportunities, but it's also like, okay, where can I work with my skills? Mm-hmm. Like, I'm an architect. I know how to solve problems. I'm not an architect. Can't say that. That's illegal.
You're almost an architect.
Almost. I'm an emerging professional, as they call it.
There you go. Emerging professional. There you go.
But, like, it's like you went to school for architecture. Architecture is it's trying to take creativity, mold it with reality.
Okay.
And that's very difficult to do because creativity is a lot of theoretical thinking. It's a lot of like, I just came up with an idea. I want it to be real. Mm-hmm. How do I do that? And you're just like, okay, I don't know. What's the first step? Well, you got to start researching this particular aspect.
Yeah.
But with architecture, you don't necessarily know what's like a straightforward avenue that you can take, because with architecture, you are what is called a jack of all trades.
There's like multiple ways to merge.
Yeah, there's multiple ways to merge, and there's multiple avenues that you can take as far as architecture, creativity, problem solving. Like, there's people who went to school for architecture degrees and are running 6-figure businesses.
Oh my goodness.
They aren't using necessarily architectural knowledge. Wow. But they're using the problem-solving skills that you gained, or the critical thinking.
It kind of like provides like a path, or like a door,
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily, sometimes you're actually just an architect.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, that's
exactly.
That's pretty cool.
The professor, his name's Scott Lawrence. He does the design builds class there. Mm-hmm. Really, really nice guy. Really smart guy. And just the projects that he works on, like right now, they're actually he and his design build group did 2 projects in the 6 years that I was there that are now going for the is it Master Prize for Architecture? It's a national, or not national, it's a global award program that they have for architecture projects. And little old Moscow, Idaho design build course is, I think, on for gold and silver for these 2 projects. Not both of them, but gold for one and silver for the other. And so, like, you think about it, like the big globe that we're on, and little old Moscow, a little tiny speck in the Pacific Northwest, is getting a little Master Architecture Prize or award. And they're like, for the project that he does. And he gave me information on like where I could navigate, where I could go with my skills and my skill set. And like, I could go into actual material design, so schematics as far as like what kind of materials are builders looking for, how do those materials go together, are they modular or are they singular, is it a group of them, are they going to be put together in some way, how do those need to be modeled, how do those need to be communicated to contractors, to material suppliers, that kind of thing. And then he also pointed me in the direction of actual trades, which highly suggest to any architect listening and watching that you get at least 2 years in a trade. Electrical, framing, plumbing, HVAC, whatever it is.
Just to kind of put yourself in a position where you kind of like know a little bit of everything. Then,
yeah. It's the like having the experience.
Kinda, okay.
Yeah, because like architecture, I don't know if you knew this, but it started out as an apprenticeship program. There's a master craftsman, and then there's the learner. The master craftsman knows everything there is about this particular aspect of architecture. The learner finds that master craftsman and does a 7-year apprenticeship program. So kind of similar to an architecture education program. And basically what it is that apprentice will study, learn from, watch, apply, and write down, and then reproduce whatever he learns from that craftsman. And then that apprentice, after the 7 years, can then start to market his own work and build off of what he learned. And so the trades framing, plumbing, HVAC, electrical. Those are all the skills that a master craftsman has.
Okay.
When it started. And all of those skills get transferred to the apprentice. They decide where they want to pick and choose where they go. But all of those skills are pertinent, very important to understanding how a building goes together, understanding what that building is going to be doing, like, and for how long. Mm-hmm. And then it also helps you communicate with your contractors, your builders, because architects go to school. Yeah. You can't necessarily gain the same perspective if you just jump into the profession. You're not always going to make it right into the profession right out of high school. Yeah. And so you get that like book smart. Mm-hmm. And I've seen this a lot. They will jump from school to the profession. And that can be good. Okay. Yeah, like, you know, also, to each their own. Yeah. But what you lack is that time period where you can be one-on-one with a tradesperson or a contractor, and you don't necessarily learn effectively how to communicate with them, how to make their job easier. And that is something that you can gain one-on-one by being in the profession of an electrician or of a framer. And it brings you back to that master craftsman apprenticeship program. And it takes everything theoretical that you learned in a book at school, and it allows you to see it in reality. Yeah. Which is what the contractors, the builders, the plumbers are going to see things as. And so you as the architect, if you just only know theoretical and you're trying to communicate to people who only know reality, you're going to butt heads. Oh, yeah. And so you want to learn how to communicate to both of them, because that's going to make you a more effective architect in the end. Wow. So, yeah.
Wow. That's a lot of...
Highly suggest it. And so, like, just talking about the topic that we're talking about today, it's like, you know, you have that trade-off of you can either go into the profession, right? And you can, like, fresh out of high school, you graduated, you can go get a job. Or you can go to university if you're fortunate enough. Yeah. Again, this is all dependent on your situation, what you're wanting to put yourself through. But there are trade-offs for both. One requires you to possibly start a family because you're going to want to set that second income. Okay. The other is you're not going to need that because you're going to be focused on school. Yeah. You're going through education. And you will be, your trade-off there is instead of the second paycheck, you got to find scholarships. You got to make sure that you're picking the right loans because those can get tricky.
Yeah. Loans are probably really tricky because you could get the wrong loan or something too.
It can affect you later down the road. Yeah, I'm going through that because right now I'm coming up on my 6-month grace period for student loans, and I got to start repaying on those. Jeez. Thankfully, I came out under $80,000, which is good. That's typical for architecture students.
$80,000.
Yeah. Wow. And so I came out under there, but picking the right ones is what's kind of set me up for like a better way to approach student loan repayment. Yeah. And so that's a big thing that we could probably talk about in another episode.
Oh yeah, of course.
Student loans. I would love to talk about that. When you go out into the profession, returning back to what we were talking about, you have trade-offs for both of them. Your trade-off for instead of getting a second paycheck is student loans and scholarships. It's also the time you have on your hands, because if you're just jumping out into the profession, you have a lot less time for yourself because more of that's contributed to bringing in money to support the things that you're doing, to make sure you're keeping that roof over your head, to make sure that you're keeping that the food on your table, yourself warm, heat on, electricity on, like that kind of thing. And with college, like you have either the choice of you could get a job. Like I got a job for all 6 years that I was there, but the first 2 years don't really count because it was more of like a when it was convenient job. And thankfully my scholarships kind of covered everything up until that point.
That's sick. The scholarships really came through.
Yeah, they came through, which was I'm very grateful for that. And so like the money that you get is going to be less in college just because you're going to school, compared to what you're gaining if you hadn't gone to school. And then of course, you have your trade-offs of like what you're paying for.
Yeah.
So as a student, you're paying for your maybe $150 of food each week, or I don't know how, 2 weeks. I think mine was $250 every 2 weeks is what I would do. And I would stretch that food out over the 2 weeks so that it would cause me to spend less money on food.
Yeah.
Over time. But you're going to be spending like your food. You might have a phone bill. You might have a car payment. You might have your student loans that you're like, you might start paying on when you're in college, so you have less to pay off later. Or you might be paying for like your rent or your board, that kind of thing. As compared to not going to school, you've got electricity, you've got heating, you've got your internet, you've got your TV, you've got your streaming services, you've got your food bills, which are maybe covering kids and a wife. Yeah. Or vice versa. It could be the wife and the husband that are trading off grocery bills. But like you've got expenses that are going to be a little bit different than what they were for a student in college. Yeah. And so each route is going to have its trade-offs. And you got to be willing to kind of pick and choose which one you want to navigate. None of them are going to be easy.
Oh, no, yeah.
Always going to be hard.
It's got to be hard, yeah.
It's always going to be hard.
Yeah, nothing good. They say nothing worthwhile is easy.
Exactly.
If it was easy,
exactly.
Do it.
Exactly, dude. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it. And that sounds great. That sounds great. But what cost does that come at? Yeah. Okay, because like this is just putting into perspective here, and this is a tangent. But like you think about all the things that we have for convenience, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. And you use like cell phones, you've got electric cars in general. Yeah. That kind of convenience, like even the energy that we use to power our appliances and things, like the chain of command, it's not just, the power is found and then we just, no, who found the power, first of all? What materials went into creating machines that would transfer that power from an unusable amount to a usable amount, specifically for electricity? And then, what about the processes of getting that power from one place to another? Gas. You gotta put it on a tanker from where it gets mined, okay, out in the ocean. You gotta put it on a ship. That ship travels to port. That port offloads there. Then it puts it on trucks or trains, and then it sends it to different places. Then it gets put on more trucks or trains, sent to more places, and then finally at some point it ends up at the gas station where you can then put it in your car.
That's crazy, huh?
And so it's like
crazy process.
Like, you don't really necessarily think about it at the time, and so it's like the realization of it. I don't know where I was going with that tangent now, but like that it's noticing those things and like seeing that things aren't easy, and it's not necessarily convenient in its entire process.
Yeah, it's not always convenient. Exactly.
So, but the one thing that I would say from the difference between the two is that doing both is going to maximize your potential down the road. And I don't necessarily think, or at least I don't feel like I've seen, is that the benefits of doing both is seen a lot. I think it's more of like we're kind of in this mode of it's one or the other. And again, this is coming from limited experience and limited knowledge, so take my words with a grain of salt. But there is a lot more focus on doing it one way because it's easy or easier than doing it the other way. And that kind of concept of easy, I feel like we've kind of misinterpreted and we've kind of misapplied to a lot of things in life, especially the way that we kind of approach how we think about things. There's a lot more focus on convenience and making it simple when it's not initially simple. And that want to make it simple is going to have trade-offs, like we were talking about with like where electricity comes from. Is like, it's not inherently simple. It's not inherently easy, and it's for a reason, because like you said, if it was, everybody would be doing it.
Yeah, and I was gonna ask you so something a little bit about when it comes to your own peace and sanity in school.
Yeah.
You know, I was gonna ask you, during your school, obviously there's a lot of studying, and it can be hard trying to manage everything, you know, like school and work and your friendships and all that. What do you think was the factor the thing that helped you the most to kind of push through all of that, you know? Like in the middle of, maybe even you probably even experienced some hardships while you were in school, you know what I mean? Some hardships, you know, hard friendships, you know, different situations that were difficult for you. What kept you sane? You know, what kept you going? What mantras did you go by? You know what I mean? That was kind of like some crazy questions. But...
well, if you want to know a mantra, don't talk about it, be about it.
Oh, there you go.
I'm like, if you're gonna say it, you might as well do it. Like, don't talk the talk if you're not gonna walk the walk.
Yeah.
But that's an extreme case. But I would say, you know, just like with life, it's hard to time manage. Okay, and personally, I'm not the best time manager. I've learned how to like make it simpler, but I'm still so far from having everything time managed. There are times where it's like I show up late to things, and it's like, oh, I'm sorry, dude. I was lost in research for this, and I was doing it for this. And it's like I just did not pay attention to time, and that becomes kind of, if you have the right people around you, they're understanding of that, and they're not gonna like have second guessings or like, you know,
assume
like,
things about you.
Like, assume things about you.
Yeah.
And so that, you know, that's one thing in itself. But
kind of like avoiding it in a way. This might kind of be branching a little bit into just avoiding toxic people.
Yeah. I would definitely say that's into it. And it's like,
because people that are like that, they're just assuming all the time. They want to control.
They're right here.
Yeah.
They're not out here.
Yeah, they don't see, you know, the difficulties that others are going through, or, you know, how they're trying to like solve their own issues and you know, to get to whatever they're trying to do.
Yeah, and I would definitely say that's a good way to see some red flags pop up if you're like analyzing stuff that way, or if you're thinking like, are my friends like really my friends? Like, that's a good way to test it, is to see like, okay, it's like, hey man, I need to do this. I don't have time for this, and then see how they react. And
They say the best way to know if someone's like truly a good friend is to tell them no sometimes.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's seeing how they react. and sometimes it may be good, sometimes it may be bad, but like, you know, it's just kind of like, well, all right, I can see how you have reacted, and so that tells me a lot about you.
Yeah.
But back to what we were talking about, like with that, the kind of managing of time, as I said, is difficult. It is something you learn, and you're constantly learning. Yeah,
you don't want to say, oh, I'm perfect now.
you don't ever I have not and will not say that there is anybody out there that is just perfect.
Oh, heck no.
No, like you can't. Like, time management is important. And I think the structure of school assists in managing that time, because it gives you kind of like a thing to copy from. Where it's like, you know, you get up at 8 and you go to class at 9. So you have an hour in between to get ready. So you eat breakfast, get ready, you know, do all these things. And then you got class at 9, and then maybe they're in there for an hour and a half. And then you go out and it's like, okay, it's 11:30 or 10:30. And maybe I'm kind of hungry, so I'll go get a snack. And then maybe your next class is at 12:30. And you don't have time for lunch. And so it's like, man, I'm kind of hungry. And so you choose to go get a snack. And so then you go to your lunch. Or you go to your next class, and then after that, maybe you go eat lunch. And it gives you kind of like a structure to build off of, and kind of turn around, you know, readjust, and then apply back into your life. But as far as like the structure, that kind of determines, you know, or that's in addition to how you've set up what you want to get out of your education.
That's part of your. You think that's part of kind of like how I asked you about, like what gives you kind of like your peace.
Yeah.
Having some order.
Yeah. It helps you pick out like, okay, where can I block out time for myself? Mm-hmm. Like for me, my first year, I really didn't want to do a lot of homework. I knew it was part of it, but I really didn't want to be spending like 7 hours as much as like people say that they spend on homework.
How many hours you said most people say they spend?
I would say between 4 and 7 is a happy medium.
7 hours of
sometimes, and that's not like one thing I do want to stress is not all in one day.
I was gonna say
it's not all in one
just
day.
To become a wow.
Because like
7 hours every day.
Your schedule is not set up so like in high school where you go to the same classes every day. You've got like 6 classes that are spread up across a week.
Oh, okay.
And so they're divided. So maybe you go to 2 classes on this day and 2 classes on this day, but they're not the same class. Okay. And so, like, for me, just for example, I had 2 art classes on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then I had my physics and math class on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Okay.
And so, like, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, maybe after my classes, I'd work on homework a little bit in the evenings. And then on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I would work on my physics homework and my math homework. And then on the weekend, I would kind of, like, finish up what I didn't get done throughout the week.
Okay.
And so like that total number of hours spent on homework is spread up across
the whole board then.
Yeah. Okay. And that's part of that time management process is
you have to put in those hours. You have to be there doing that homework.
Yeah. And so back to what you were asking about, like how do you find your peace or your sanity? The
I know most college students are just kind of like they're going through a lot.
It can be.
Yeah.
And it can be stressful. And so like, most of the time it's going out to the bars or it's going out with your friends, going to a movie, going to a sporting event.
Disconnecting for a little bit.
Yeah, disconnecting for a little bit. And there are your groups of kids that are going to do that too much. And then there's your groups of kids that are not going to do it enough. And then there's your groups of kids right in the middle that are doing it, have a happy balance.
Medium, they're not overkilling.
Yeah, exactly. And so like, having that ability to pick and choose your schedule within college gives you the ability to block out time for yourself. And this is one of the things that your advisors should stress is that make time for yourself. Make that time. Like my advisor, thankfully, did stress that. I have had a couple of friends that did not have advisors like that, and they did not suggest that. And they had a rough time the first couple of years.
That sounds like the key, the perfect way to set someone for burnout.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They're just like, I just can't do this anymore. And,
There's many kids that were taking like 21 some odd credits, and they wanted to be there. So that's like maybe 6 classes, I think. 7 classes, I think, because they're 3 credits max. And so like 7 classes, and they want to take those classes, but they get burnt out, and it's because they're not making time for themselves.
Yeah, like you need at least a little bit of time for yourself. Yeah,
and in those times,
even afternoons, like you said, not necessarily a whole day.
Yeah, and in those times, one of the things that I feel is helpful to do is remember what you like to do. Like, remember back when you were 6 years old, right? What was your favorite thing to do?
Bike riding, honestly.
All right. Yeah. And you just ride around the neighborhood, go tell your friends, go hang out and be like, hey, what's up? Yeah. And it's like that. Go for a bike ride. Yeah. In your free time. Like, you can, at Moscow, we had bike trails that stretch from Pullman out to Deary. And these are like 6-7 miles of bike trails. You could ride around the neighborhood if you wanted to, because they've got little like pathways that meander through. And like a quick little 5-minute bike ride from your place of living to maybe the gas station to get a drink and then back. That 5-10 minutes could do so much for you in burnout.
Especially for your mental health.
Yeah. It just gives you that forcible break from not doing anything associated with learning. Yeah. That you can then apply to like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to ride my bike. I'm going to go get a drink and I'm going to ride back.
It's like a reset.
Yeah. And like even as low as 3 minutes. Like if you've got like a certain amount of time in between a meeting, get up and walk. Like just walking outside could do so much for how you prepare for that meeting. And like most of the people would be spending like, oh no, I'm nervous. I need to spend time. Like I need to make sure I get my lines right. I need to do this. Go take a walk. Go take a walk. breathe.
Yeah. Just
get out and do something that you want to do. And that is something that you kind of have to force yourself to do, because once you get out in the profession, you're not going to be told. Like, as soon as you leave college, there's kind of a realization. It's like, I'm no longer being told what to do, or I'm no longer being like given what to do.
Yeah.
And so you kind of have this feeling, like, what do I do with myself?
Yeah. I'm just.
Yeah. And so it's like that initiative factor is what's going to decide the difference between, are you going to sit there on your phone all day? You know, that's not always bad. Okay.
Yeah.
Are you going to sit there on your phone? Are you going to sit there and just play video games? Or are you going to like, oh, I'm going to go try out for this baseball team, or I'm going to go read this book, or I'm going to go research this topic.
Read this book. Honestly, I'm curious. Do you read?
Yeah. Oh yeah, all the time, bro. I brought one with me. Yeah, all the time. It's this is a passion of mine as a kid. I used to read.
To read? Or to read?
Read. Okay. Yeah. And so I've maintained that passion. So
is there books that you suggest for people, like, you know, in general, or you kind of just dabble? Are you like, what kind of books do you read?
You know, recently it's been a lot of kind of like lifestyle books, just because life is hard to navigate, very difficult. And so, you know, gaining some experience in different people's ways of navigating that is helpful, because not all the time do you have those people next to you. But aside from lifestyle, I like fiction. Dystopian fiction is my go-to.
Okay.
So
that probably helps you disconnect, huh? Like, from like your present reality.
Yeah, helps you kind of like,
not that it's that you live in a bad reality, but it's just reality in general, like our lives in general.
Yeah.
Carry a lot of weight. Because we have a lot of responsibilities and
unfortunately
goals and stuff.
And so it's finding that like avenue to kind of like just like disassociate and like create your own area,
or be part of someone else's little world.
Yeah, exactly. Because like you can get that from memoirs, you can get that from nonfiction books. Like you're sitting there reading a book about Anne Frank, and you're like, dude, I didn't realize that this woman was blind and deaf. How did she write a book? And you're sitting there, you start thinking, you're like, what? Like who taught, like how?
She did it with Braille.
Yeah, and so
how did she make the Braille? Like what?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I don't know.
You start asking these questions that aren't like typical to life, and so you're sitting there and you're just like you're in your own world. You're not focused on what it was that you wanted, that you were doing, and it gives you that kind of reset, as you said.
Yeah.
And I think that is very important, is finding those times, and this is your moment of peace, your moment of not just doing school.
Yeah.
And that can be difficult. It can.
I know a lot of people, they do video games a lot.
Yeah.
They do video games. For me, when I was going through a very hard time in my life, I liked watching like series on Netflix.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I was just into like
what series?
Little series. I was watching. There's one where there's it's called like Ghostbusters or something like that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was just into watching little stuff like that.
Just,
you know, entertaining stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. Like your favorite TV show, Grey's Anatomy, CSI, fucking Law and Order. If you want to go
anything.
And it's moderation is key.
Oh yeah, like, you can't just spend all the time there. Yeah,
you can't. You gotta give yourself that time. And a good example like that I like to use for when I talk to people about this is 20-minute naps.
Oh yeah, I take 10-minute naps, but 20 is probably better.
If you pay attention to kind of like, so as you're sleeping, as you fall asleep, you're kind of like, okay, I'm gonna fall asleep. You're sitting there, you're laying down, you got your eyes closed, and it's like, okay, you can start to like slowly feel yourself fall into sleep if you pay attention to it.
Oh yeah.
And it's at that 20-minute mark that I've been told that is like perfect for not officially reaching that kind of deep sleep that pushes you, where it's like you're really, really tired, you're sitting there, you wake up and you're like, nah, I can't wake up, and so you go back to sleep. And that's that deep sleep. 20 minutes when you're falling asleep is kind of like that happy medium where it's like you reach that like calming period before you fall asleep, and then say your alarm goes off, it snaps you awake, and so you feel a little bit more refreshed, you feel a little bit more reset, than what you did before. And it could be 10 minutes, it could be 20 minutes. It's different for each person. It might even be 30 minutes.
Yeah.
I've found 20 minutes to be a helpful kind of amount. And I've suggested that to people, and I've had 2 people so far that have been like, wow, that was actually really cool. Like I really felt kind of like refreshed. And each time that I do it, I wake up and I'm like, okay, I can focus. I'm not distracted with other things. And I'm able to do what I need to do in those moments.
That's actually kind of what I do with haircuts. I set up a schedule every 2 haircuts. Yeah. I have a 10-minute break.
Nice.
You know? And honestly, I've been taking like kind of naps, but in a way, I'll come to this podcast room actually in the barbershop, and I'll just come in here and I'll literally lay on this couch. Yeah. And I'll just literally just close my eyes and just like chill out for like 10 minutes, you know, and then I'll go back, cut hair, and I'm ready to keep talking to people. Because honestly, like being a barber or talking to people all day can be draining. Like,
it can be.
It can be.
It can. It's like, you know, you got like.
And then also you're also not only cutting their hair and talking, you're also focusing. Yeah. You're trying to make sure it looks good. You're looking at different angles. So it's a lot of brain power you're using.
Yeah, it's kind of similar to like looking at a computer screen for extended periods of time. Like your eyes get so heavy, or dry, so tired, dry. Yeah, there are times where I'm like this on my computer, and I was like, bro, I gotta take a break, and so I gotta like look at something that's like 100 feet away, and I was like, okay, I can't look at this. Yeah. But like another thing with this is it gives you perception of time. 10 minutes is longer than most people think. It goes faster because people are doing so much. Yeah. When you actually start to like sit here and you just sit for 10 minutes, or you sleep for that 10 minutes, that 20 minutes, whatever it is, you realize just how long 10 minutes is. Oh, yeah. And it kind of puts into perspective a lot of different things in life, and like how much time you actually have to do things. Oh, yeah. I've noticed that being able to, doing these like 20-minute nap things, but also how that's transferred over into like work and school. It's like when I worked this maintenance position, it was like they were like, get it done. You have 8 hours in a day, okay? But they're working at this like high speed. They gotta get things done. I'm like, dude, you're going faster, creating more mistakes. Okay, maybe you might have fixed it, but only for a certain amount of time, which is then going to require you to come back in and fix it. Whereas if you were to take 4 hours as compared to 2 hours, you're still doing something in that 8 hour period. It's just, it took you the actual amount of time to do it instead of just finding a quick solution. Yeah. And what that brings is like, if you're just looking for a quick solution, there are times where you're sitting there doing nothing. And then because you're sitting there doing nothing, you're frustrated because there's nothing to do. Yeah. And it's like, well, you could have been spending 4 hours on this project rather than 2, and then you wouldn't be sitting here doing nothing. Exactly. And that's one of the things that I've noticed as far as like the concept of time, and I think we should you should do one on that too, because that's something that I feel like is getting a little bit more distorted as we get more technologicalized. Yeah. Or is that the word? More advanced. More advanced, innovated, progressed.
Yeah, whatever it is. No, yeah, it's true. It's true that sometimes people, they prioritize speed over quality. Yeah. You know, and you start losing the quality in things. Like me with my haircuts, I personally like finally got to a point where I am pretty fast. Like I can do haircuts in 20 minutes, 30 minutes, you know, but it's like I built a system where it's like, exactly, you know, this is the most efficient way to get it done. For you. Well, that I figured for myself, exactly. Yeah. And it's like, it's a system, you know, like you do the lineups first, you know, or you do the trimming, then you do the lineups, and then you do the blending, and then you're done, you know, or whatever. Everyone has their own system, but still, like you said, for me, I found that one that works really efficient and the quality remains. Yeah. While other people that might actually experience, like slower speeds. Yeah. Some people like the slower speeds, right? Because sometimes it's more relaxed and you're more at ease, right? You're not it's not as industrialized, right? When you have a system, it's more industrialized. And for me, it's like I have these 30 minutes. I have to get it done, and these are the systems that I'm using.
Yeah.
You know, and it works. You know, but the quality is preserved.
Yeah.
You know,
exactly.
and I feel like that's kind of like what you're mentioning too. Is like better take the 4 hours. You know, for some things.
Yeah.
For the quality to remain, because
exactly.
there was once this place that I used to like to go to, that sold like really good like fruit and stuff like that, and a lot of people were going, and I would tell people, hey, go to it, it's really good. And then turns out, one day I went, and then I noticed they replaced the fresh fruit for like canned fruit.
Oh no.
They were trying to make more money. I was like, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Yeah,
no, dude.
And then eventually, like, that place shut down, you know. But like they dug themselves into the grave because they decided they wanted to take a shortcut that wasn't actually a shortcut.
Yeah.
Because I feel like you can't have a shortcut if you're jeopardizing the quality for the customer.
Yeah, I would say so.
That's not a shortcut anymore. That's people are gonna notice when you stop trying or when you're not doing good for them anymore. They'll notice, you know.
Yeah, they'll notice. They'll know. Like it's like just to give another example, like what's happening with McDonald's right now. Like, food got expensive there.
Yeah,
and
very expensive.
It used to be the cheapest place to get food for people that had low incomes. And so, like, now that it's getting more expensive, McDonald's is noticing that not many people are going. Even though it may seem like it, there's significantly less people worldwide that are going. And because of that, they are now offering their $5.99 deal, which is like you can get like $5.99 and get like a cheeseburger or like some kind of like smaller version of the quarter pounder, a fry and a drink or something, and it's like a filling meal, but it's for cheaper, and they're trying like these advertise to bring people back, but it's like no, because it's like it's still the same. Like you're not getting enough for what you're paying for.
Yeah.
I used to be able to get 2 McChickens for $2.
Yeah.
Like that was $2, dude.
Yeah.
Those are whole ass McChickens.
My brother, he went to my little brothers. They were all excited when the new restaurant opened up, the one here in Prosser.
Palomas?
No, that one's really good, but no, it's like a new fast food, the one that's like across
Jack in the Box.
Jack in the Box.
Yeah.
They're like, oh my gosh, Jack in the Box opened up. You know, no hate. You know, no hate on Jack in the Box, but I think it's not bad. But they were all excited. They're like, heck yeah. They show up. He's out there, like, they buy their burger, and they see the burger, and it's all small. Like, their burgers are smaller.
Yeah, dude, I've noticed that.
And my little brothers were so mad. They're like, we could have gone somewhere else.
Jack in the Box used to make fat burgers,
yeah,
dude.
And they're all tiny now. And
oh my god! Like I got a breakfast sandwich from the Pullman one once before, and
that
thing was full.
Yeah, they were like, we weren't even.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's one of the things that's going on is just. Yeah,
they're making things smaller, you know.
Yeah, and so
it's the price is the same, and maybe even more.
Back to like what you're talking about is like people are gonna notice.
Oh yeah, and they're gonna leave.
And they're gonna leave. They're not gonna like. That's one of those things, and like bringing this back to what we were talking about, that kind of noticing factor is important, and it gives you when you get the feeling of noticing something, don't run from it, run with it, figure out where it goes. Because that's going to lead you to I think personally, a simpler approach to things. You are going to always get something similar if you allow yourself to just follow that thought. And if you don't, then it's like you're constantly fighting with yourself of like why you're not completely understanding something, why you're not able to do something completely, why maybe you don't feel like you have all the tools necessary, and it's because you're not following those thoughts or you're subconsciously ignoring them, and so you just follow them. Yeah. You just gotta follow them.
Yeah.
But there was one thing that you mentioned about like hardships and things that college students experience. Some of us more so than others. And you know, I'm not gonna go out on my hill and preach that I had the worst college experience ever. I had some pretty difficult moments in college. Primarily dealing with relationships with friends, and then also people that I was interested in.
Love relationships.
And so
they can really take a toll on your college.
It can. Yeah. Like my last one. Like, no hate against the person that I was dating. None taken. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that frustrated me is that there was no understanding or mutual respect for the fact that I can't neglect my education.
Yeah.
That is
like respecting
vital.
your time.
Yeah.
You know, like
that
hey,
is vital.
This is my study time.
Exactly.
This is us time. You know, I can only give you about this much. You know, that's what it is. And take it or leave it, pretty much. You know.
Exactly. Take it or leave it.
Yeah.
And I mean, you've experienced this before with like cutting hair and also going to school because you went to, what was it?
St. Martin's University.
That's right. I was gonna say Whitman, but no, that's not right. St. Martin's. And so you've gone through it where you were cutting hair, doing school, and you were trying to, one, keep yourself afloat.
Yeah.
Keep all your bills paid. Yeah. Work and gain stuff from your education.
Yeah, that was so, like, a lot. Yeah.
You couldn't put up with this unwillingness or unruliness to like accommodate to your schedule so that you're able to maximize the things while you're also trying to accommodate to their schedule.
Yeah, like you're when you're with somebody, you're trying to work, you know, and then even worse if you're going through some kind of a breakup. Mm-hmm. You know, I remember that when I was going through a certain breakup and I was in college, I was just like it's so crazy when you're going through a lot of stuff. It's like mentally you're not there. Yeah. Like you just see the professor moving in his lips and you're just like you're just like trying to figure out like what the heck happened. You know? Yeah. How did this, you know?
Many times I had that. Yeah. Many times. And there is times where it's like, you know, that like there are times where that won't, it's not, how do I say this? That problem that you're dealing with is not always separate or separated from being in school. Mm-hmm. Like there's times for me where they cross paths.
Like it's hard to keep, you know, school and you know, personal life and like they just merge sometimes. You're like,
yeah, the merging, it was like that merging could also impact the other students that are around you.
Oh yeah.
And how they associate with you. Mm-hmm. And then that could therein impact your education. Yeah. And so
or the perspective of you, because they're just like, look, he's depressed.
Yeah. Or it's
or like he's going through something and he doesn't talk much because he's just kind of in his head.
Or they don't know what's going on, and so there's like they're not sure kind of like how to
approach you.
Yeah, talk to you, and like work with you. You know? Yeah. Or it's like it could even show up in as like the like actions that happen because you're dealing with this problem could change the perception of those people, and so they won't interact with you. Yeah. Whereas they did before. Yeah. And so it's like they're like scared of you almost, and so like that could impact how you, like for me, a lot of the work that we do is like we need insight from other people. Oh yeah. And so like if people have the wrong impression of you, they're less likely to give you insight. Yeah. Or critiques. Or help you out. Yeah, or help you out. Mm-hmm. And so it's like that kind of psychological aspect. And these are problems, I just want to make this clear. These are problems that everybody deals with and everybody goes through. Oh yeah. And everybody's story is going to be different. Oh yeah. The way that you experienced it versus the way that I experienced it, different. Very different, yeah. And how we approach and how we go about them is also going to be different. But the point that still says the same is that you have to be able to navigate these in order to learn from them.
Yeah, I feel like that's the key. Just whatever you go through, you have to learn. Yes. You know, and that's why some people, they keep making the same mistake because they don't learn. They don't always learn. Like they go through a certain situation or even like a relationship, and it's like they think, okay, you know what, like the best way to get through this is just to find someone else. Yeah. Versus no, the best way is to process. Like take the time, look at yourself. Mm-hmm. Where have you failed? Where did you feel they failed? And like have a mutual kind of understanding. Really dig in. Yeah. Yeah, let processing time happen. Yeah, because I feel like sometimes even too like the fear of being alone. Like some people just can't be by themselves.
Yeah, I that's a big thing in college too.
Yeah, especially because you're in college and you might feel alone there in general.
Because you're far away from family, you're far away from the friends that you know, you're far away from what's comfortable. Like you're in a new place. Yeah, and it's normal. Yeah, exactly. But it's part of the process too. Yeah, it is. It's really important.
I feel like a lot of people. Obviously, personally, I'm like a person that is religious, so I believe in God and all that good stuff, right? And for even non-religious, I feel like journaling is very key. Like some people, like they write down their stuff with, like on a little notebook. For me, I write it on my notes.
It doesn't have to be just a notebook. It can be voice memos. It can be videos. It can be like just therapy time with yourself.
And that helps so much. You know, like for me personally, like, you know, I make it where it's like, this is my conversation with God on my notes. You know what I mean? And for some other people, could be just, this is a conversation within myself. You know, I'm just trying to get to know myself. Yeah. You know, why, and that just helps you make better choices. You know, because then you have a record of what's been happening to you. Yeah. Because I feel like sometimes when you don't write it down, you forget what you've been going through or what you're going through, and it's hard for you to like make better choices or even set boundaries within yourself or with individuals. Yeah. Because you forgot what hurt or what happened. Because the best thing that your brain does is it just kind of like hides it, it covers it, neglects it. Yep. You know, and then that's what creates a vicious cycle. People keep repeating the same thing. Yeah. Because they never reflect. Like, is it working? Is it not?
Yeah. And that transfers or translates into relationships. That translates into how you approach things. That translates into your work ethic. That translates everywhere. Yeah. And it impacts.
You have to see how you're doing. Yeah. Reflect on it. Exactly.
You gotta be able to at least look inward in order to look outward. Yeah. 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 The other thing that you mentioned too was like how does one go about that in college? Because like there's a lot of things that can come from it. Personally speaking here, a lot of unnecessary things that come from it. Like first instance that I had, the first struggle that I had in college was with my very first relationship that I had there, and that kind of like set the stage for my social life in a way, because unfortunately this person had a particular influence on a lot of people there. Not like negative influence, but like this person knew of them and they knew of her. And so like they were friends on a level, and I couldn't really go anywhere or didn't feel like I could go anywhere without running into her. And that there in itself caused more problems. And so that fear of like, I can't go anywhere, that impacts
how... It isolates you now.
It isolates you, and it makes you feel like you can even only stay in one area, and it makes you even worse and stressed. And so like, one of the things that I did about that was, okay, what do I like to do? I like to play video games. I like to read. I like to research. I like to learn. I like to work on projects. I like to build Legos.
You work out too, right?
Yeah, work out. I work out. That was the biggest thing. I'm going to be honest with you, and this might not be child content. Had I not gone into working out, I don't think I would be here today. Oh, wow. It was that desperate of a situation that I'm sitting there and I'm like,
well, a lot of people get through a lot of breakups and hardships by hitting the gym and doing workouts.
It can be helpful. It can be helpful. You don't want to go into the toxic pathway of it, but yes.
Oh yeah, some people become obsessed with themselves and then
the confidence factor. Yeah.
Or I would even say even the ego.
Ego.
Because ego is, there's a book called Ego's the Enemy.
I haven't heard that.
You never heard it? Yeah, it's a good book that helps you realize that if you just become so selfish and so self-centered, you kind of sabotage relationships and even connections. Yeah. That could potentially, like you said, it's very important to have, like people that you can eventually venture out to different things.
Talk to, reach out to, access,
Because of this ego. Yeah. Personally, I once at some point, I feel like when I was in a path of like trying to be super successful, I felt like that started impacting my life. And it destroys a lot of friendships and relationships. Yeah. And it's not worth it, honestly. It's not worth it. Like, I think the best thing we can realize is that we all, like they say, we eat and do our duty the same.
We all want to do something. We all need to eat. We all need to drink. We all need to breathe. Okay, we all want to live.
We're all humans. Like, we're all the same.
We're all the same.
Yeah, there's no I'm better than this person or that person. You might be, more educated in a certain area, or, we might know about certain fields, or, might be better at a certain sport, but that doesn't make you a better person. Yeah. It's like how you treat others. It's your heart. What are your intentions behind everything that you do? Yeah. Is it to bring goodness to others, or is it just to bring goodness to yourself only? Yeah. Are you selfish or are you selfless? Yeah. And I feel like living in a more selfless way is what brings more people, more opportunities. And you're more blessed.
Definitely.
More goodness in your life.
And like we were talking about earlier, the what you get in return is not always just going to be a physical object. It's not always just going to be a monetary object. It's always just going to be like these things that you can hold and expect. It's going to be just like the feeling
in your heart,
the connection, the person,
the appreciation.
Like, exactly. Like there's
or sometimes they say there's the sake of goodness itself. Just for the sake of goodness, like it just feels good. Like it's just the right thing to do.
That one gets forgotten about a lot, dude. I'm surprised at how many times it's like, well, why would I do that? I'm like, because it's good.
It's the right thing to do. Yeah,
it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Why else would you do it?
Yeah.
I was sitting there just like, oh my gosh. Well, what was that? The thing you mentioned earlier. I'll have to think about that one. But yeah, no, I would say that it's definitely, it can be challenging, but it's no different than if you were not in school. All of these hard times, trying to find the peace with yourself, trying to find your time for yourself, like it's challenging for everybody, but taking the initiative to go out and do it is what's going to set you apart from everybody else that isn't. And that's the biggest factor that tends to catch people from doing things, or tends to prevent people from doing things a lot of the time, is that first initial act of doing it. Because there's internal battles that they're going through, or like, you got to do this assignment, you got to eat, you got to sleep, you got to it's like, stop, breathe, it's gonna be okay. Everything is gonna be okay. And you just have to take the step. I was reading this yesterday. Take the next smallest step. You've got this big goal. You have this place you want to be. But what is the next smallest step? What do you need in order to get to, say, reading that book? Are you hungry? Are you thirsty? Do you need time away? Do you need to go run? Do you need to go work out? Do you need to see your friends? Call your friends. And like that could then set you up for reading that book or writing that paper.
Like, do the next right thing. What's the next right thing to do? And because some people, like you said, they live for, I gotta get over here already. I gotta be at this mountain. But it's like, did you put your shoes on? You know what I mean? Did you drink water?
Did you pack water?
That's important. That's very important. But it's like, it's a journey,
Exactly.
And it's like one step at a time. One step at a time. And I feel like most people nowadays, because they have a lot of anxiety, they're living a few miles.
Technology.
A few miles ahead. I do a thing where I have an accountability partner when it comes to my phone. It's kind of crazy, huh? But I have like screen time. You know how children have screen time?
I did too.
So I give myself screen time with, but my friend has the code to give me more or less, but I give myself only 3 minutes, 3 minutes a day on Snapchat, on Instagram. Well, on Instagram, I just increased it to 5 because I upload videos about like faith and stuff like that. It takes about 5 minutes for things to upload. So, but I just hardly consume content. I try to stay away from it as much as possible because
that's difficult.
It really distracts you. Very, very. Even YouTube, I only give myself like 5 minutes on YouTube because it's so addictive. But the good thing about screen time is you could say you give yourself 5 minutes, but you could click play, and if you're paying for the subscription, it doesn't spend screen time by just listening to audios. So that's what I like, that I could still listen to a podcast or something.
Exactly.
Even though my screen time is reduced, and it gives you that time to actually do meaningful things, like having a conversation with somebody. Eating and actually seeing the person in the eyes and be like, what are you?
Or tasting the food.
I see people that they're eating and they're like watching their phone at the same time. And I'm not trying to hate on that, but I feel like it's a lot better if you put the phone down and just become present. Just enjoy the moment. And I feel like little moments that you can enjoy are what bring natural good dopamine back to your brain.
Brings creativity. Like a lot of, like, this is side tangent, a lot of the projects that architects, artists, those things, a lot of the sources of the creativity comes from non-related topics.
It's crazy, huh?
It is. It's very crazy. Like the ideas that people think of. like it comes from non-art specific topics most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like those moments are so important. If it can change someone's perspective, like, I gotta do this project, I don't know what to do. They go out for a walk. Oh my God, I know what to do. And so it's like, how does a walk translate to art? I don't understand.
Yeah.
But it's like those moments it's refreshing. And like you said, it brings the good dopamine that is refreshing, focusing, and it feels good.
The healthy one.
Yeah.
You know, what sucks though, it's kind of interesting when we have to rewire our mind to normal dopamine. Is I heard like screens give us like a very very high level of dopamine, kind of almost like drugs in a way. And when people go out and say, for example, you suggest someone go on a walk, you know, go to the gym. A lot of times people will do these things, and they don't feel the same reward as just scrolling and sitting there or eating some chips, and it's because their brain has been just rewired in a way to be addicted to just the screen and get all the pleasure there. And it's an addiction. You know, phone addiction is real. So many people spend like 10, 12. I have people that I know.
I've been there, dude.
Yeah, that just hours on their phone. I used to be that person too.
I deleted TikTok because I spent 8 hours straight on that phone.
I'd feel like, you know what? When I was I deleted TikTok too. I would be like, I wish somebody would grab my phone and just freaking chuck it from my hands right now.
Where's my mom when I need her?
I know. I'd be like, someone needs to chuck this phone away from me because I just can't stop scrolling, you know. Like, it's so addictive. You know, I that's why I had to take action. I had to do something about it.
Got to get rid of the apps that's doing it.
That's it, yeah.
You actually bring up a good point. 2 points, actually. One, moderating time. When I was a kid, my mom told me I had an hour for games.
That's
cool.
And
in order to get that hour, I had to read for an hour.
That's cool.
But
that's awesome.
The bad side was I could never go above an hour of game time, even if I read for 2 hours.
Dang it.
But it's okay. We're alive. Yeah. We're thriving. The other thing that you mentioned was oh God, I just forgot it. You just talked about the addiction to phones.
Phone addiction, yeah.
Yes. Is that thought gonna come back? Bro, this happens a lot.
No, you're good, bro. You're good. It's the architecture mind. You're solving multiple things at the same time.
I'm gonna talk through it. You have to be able to separate from the time that you spend on your phone, the time you spend on technology. It was the false dopamine that you were talking about.
Yeah.
One of the things that I recently have heard, it was a month ago actually, was talking about caffeine specifically, but I feel like this translates into what we're talking about here with like technology and kind of like the short form content versus like podcasts, where it's like long form content or videos, vlogs even.
Yeah.
And it's like the dopamine or like the feeling that you get from scrolling through your phone, seeing a video for 7 seconds and then scrolling to the next one, scrolling from there to the posts, going from there to your messages, going from there to a YouTube video. Like that I would consider is borrowed pleasure.
Borrowed dopamine.
Yeah. That kind of thing is like it's borrowed. You have a bar of dopamine that is like your set bar. Like that's what you get throughout the day. When you go to scroll through your phone, you're adding incremental portions of that dopamine.
Especially before the day starts, it's the worst.
Before,
thing.
Yeah.
Because you're robbing yourself from actual pleasure for the day.
When in reality, it's not adding to it all the time. It's taking away, but it feels like it's adding to it.
Yeah. This is my routine. This is what I do.
Yeah, this is what you do. Yeah. And it gives your brain the wrong impression of the dopamine, the feeling, the chemical reaction that happens. And then when you feel something that is in a way healthier dopamine, you're not going to get the same reaction. Good example is foods that are processed, heavily processed foods. They're filled with usually sugar and fats.
Yeah.
Those are the two things that your mouth is going to be more receptive to in all food than other aspects. The cholesterol, the carbs, the proteins, like that kind of stuff. The sugars and the fats are going to be more
That's
addictive.
what creates addiction. Yeah.
Yes, they're going to be more addictive. And so that's going to give you that false impression of what food should taste like as compared to what it actually tastes like. And when you actually taste food, you're tasting the combinations of food.
Sugar and fat.
Of fats, proteins, all of it combined. Not just the fats and sugars that are going to be in like processed food. So like donuts, cereal is a big one. You've got like boxed foods, canned foods, those kinds of things.
They have even, I don't know if you heard, like they even have engineers now, like palate engineers or whatnot.
Yeah.
That like genetically modify like the food to be even more addictive. And it's so crazy to think that we're eating these foods that are especially designed pretty much for our downfall, and to make us addicted to them,
what's that? Not convolution. The other side of that, the flip side of that, is that the thought process behind that is that they're approaching it from like, this particular food does not taste good, and so they want to make it taste good, and so they do that by adding things, changing the structure of it, unnaturalizing it, and it's the same thing, but it's enhanced. It's enhanced, and it's more for the pleasure of enjoying it. Rather than actually like, I don't know how to say that. You want to enjoy it, but like
I'd probably say it would be for the process of the customer's enjoyment, but not for their best interest.
That's true.
I would say for the process of their enjoyment and for the profitability of the company and the seller. Not necessarily for the consumer. The consumer's kind of like, who cares? If it tastes good, they'll buy it. Who cares if it's maybe not the best thing for them?
Yeah.
And that's why as consumers, we have to be very, very like selective, and know, like me when I was strictly like, beef, eggs, fruits, I was fit. I was very cut.
Yeah.
And then now, I've been eating, some tamales here and there, some tacos, gained like 20 pounds, and it's like, obviously I'm going to consider, going back to the grind again, but after the holidays.
Yeah, of course.
New Year, New Me is January 1st. It's going to happen again. Going back hard.
Yes, sir.
Going back strong. But for now, I still want some tamales.
Yeah, gotta have that. Gotta have that.
Yeah. Or I need to go hard in the gym like you every day so you can stay.
Actually, I only go 3 days a week. It's the biggest part for me is the food. Like it's just,
you just eat very clean.
Clean, but you also like it's moderation.
Oh, that too, yeah.
Like,
of course.
You can overindulge, but like if you overindulge one day, don't overindulge
the next day. Yeah, it's a discipline with the food. Yeah,
and you got to be able to watch, and it's just like the knowing what and why foods do what they do is going to help you a lot in that moderation and discipline aspect. Because then it's like you can pick and choose. It's like, I don't need to take a supplement. I could get fiber from peppers, broccoli. And if I just mix that, saute it a little bit, put some butter in there, salt, delicious, then it's like, okay, it's palatable. I can eat it and it's enjoyable. Steam it makes it much easier to eat. And then like you get your fiber for the day and you don't have to take a supplement, which then, even though the science says that it's supposed to be good for you, supplements are called supplements because they're supposed to be supplemented into your diet if your body's deficient. If your body can't produce it, that supplement kind of like fills that gap that your body's not able to produce. But if you just take supplements, your body will become reliant on those supplements. And will not produce what it's supposed to.
I've heard people that take like a whole, like a bunch of them. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I was there once.
Yeah.
I used to take like 12 different vitamins.
It was a big craze. It was a big part of the lifestyle thing that got misinterpreted. And like, I mean, a perfect example: older people, like their bodies are actively losing functionality. They are required to take supplements because their bodies can't produce these things anymore
as much,
as effectively as they used to. And so they need supplements to give them that even amount, not even over.
Just to get them there.
Yeah,
I've heard people too that how testosterone goes down, and some people use like testosterone boosters. I'm not gonna say that's the best thing to do or not. I don't know if I would consider doing that.
The androgenic version of it,
Yeah, but I've heard that
Beets?
In a way that there's other ways to, to boost it up.
I've heard ashwagandha, but I don't know if that's necessarily as effective.
I've taken ashwagandha before, for like stress. Like I would deal with a lot of stress before.
Yeah.
I learned to give a lot of that up to God.
Yeah.
And for people that don't believe in God, give it up to something else. I don't know.
Yeah. The like there are alternatives that are gonna be better for you than just like that quick kind of like, oh, there it is. I can grab it. There, I have it now. Now I can use it. No, well, okay, maybe I have to reach behind that one to grab the one that I actually need.
Exactly.
That kind of thing. And so that's where that smart commerce comes in, where you're being a little bit more, not meticulous, but you're being just more aware of what
There's even apps like the Yuka app. There's an app called Yuka, and it's like, I'm not getting paid for this.
Dang it.
Sheesh, but yeah, there's like an app that you can actually use.
Yuka, sponsor him.
You could literally just like take pictures, and it will like tell you like on the scale. It'll have like a scale grade of how healthy it is, and it'll even tell you like potential dyes and chemicals, what they do to you in your body. It's a pretty cool app.
Europe has something similar to that, but it's on the actual packaging of food.
Well, Europe just has better food.
Yeah, I know, right? Tell me about it.
Most of the stuff that we hear is banned over there. It's like, dang. The cereals aren't it's Cheerios or something like that. They have like stronger colors in America, and over there they're all colored by fruit colors.
The biggest difference that I found is Fanta.
Fanta
is yellow over in Europe, and it's orange over here. But that's because of the orange dye that they put in it. Also, Fanta over there will not stain your clothes, but Fanta over here, it will.
What the heck? I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's crazy.
But
that tells you that we're consuming some poison and stuff.
Oh man. Well, I think that's a whole different topic. But like the colors are put in there more for like the aesthetic. Like it attracts people. Like if it's bright, if it's attractive,
it sells more. But there is a lot of research that shows
side effects that come with that.
There's a lot of side effects. Red dye 40 or something like that.
Which is where that moderation aspect comes in, because like if you think about it, there's this big craze going on about like diet soda, 0-calorie soda, that kind of thing. And like
a lot of it's really bad for you. The zero, it's got sucralose. It still spikes your
aspartame, sucralose, that kind of thing,
and you still get fat through it.
Talking about it, the caloric aspect of it is where you gain like weight, gain anything. So if you have 0 calories in something, you are not going to be intaking calories. What you are intaking is all the minerals, the little chemicals that are going to be inside there that are going to phase and change within your body. It's not necessarily going to add to your calorie intake. So that whole part of it's kind of the misconception. But the part that I was talking about was aspartame itself, not inherently bad. In higher doses, consistently higher doses, then it's lethal at that point.
Oh, wow.
But you have to be drinking like 12 packs a day in order for that to really do any effect on you.
Dang, I would be so crazy.
And even then, it's going to be after a while that it's going to start affecting you. And so that's where all of the studies where there's like, oh, aspartame's cancer, it's like it's related to cancer, it's related to all this. No, it's not. Not immediately.
Yeah.
And so it's like
a lot of things long term eventually they cause that. Yeah.
It's like radiation. Like people who work out at Hanford, they just by being out there, you can take radiation home with you. And that will slowly develop within you, and it could lead to cancer. Not everybody, but some.
It depends how much exposure. Yeah. Like my brother says that he works in Hanford, and he's like,
oh, I forgot he just works out there.
Yeah, so he says that sometimes people are like, oh, you're in Hanford, you're gonna get cancer, you're gonna die. And he's like, a lot of times the amount of exposure he says that they get is similar to the one that people get when they go out in the sun.
Yeah.
That it's not even that big of a difference. And I was like, I don't know if it's the truth or not. Hopefully it is the truth.
Yeah.
And obviously a lot of those people there, they don't all get cancer and die, So it's like.
And even in some places it could be different, but that's all dependent on like where you're at, who you are, what you're doing.
Yeah.
That kind
the
of
risk to like, what kind of a risk job are you in? Are you really, really right next to the radiation all the time and working with suits constantly? But I heard they have like a test too of how much radiation exposure you've had and once you reach a certain limit, you're cut.
Yeah. They do that. Yeah, my dad.
Which is good because I would think it'd be horrible if they just. Unfortunately, they used to probably not have that. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah, no, they definitely did not have that at one point. But no, my dad used to work out there, and he said that there was if you reach this level, then you're no longer working out here. You can't, because then you become a liability to the company, and so it's like But yeah, to circle back though to our topics, we kind of got off topic there a little bit. Yeah. Education and kind of like that where do you go? Education, workforce, that kind of thing is like similar topic that we've kept to all of the conversation here is like there's trade-offs. Life is no longer straightforward.
No, yeah.
It's not. Before 2000, it was less straightforward, but it was more straightforward than it is now. And so that whole saying of like you go to college, you get a job, you do all this, you make some money, you work really hard, you get a house, do all this. That's not achievable as it used to be. It's achievable, but there's
different paths now.
There's different pathways. And
I've heard two people like, sometimes now it's not even the greatest time to like buy a house, like if you don't have the income, because it's like I have a cousin who's like, oh yeah, my mortgage is like $3,200, and I was like, oh my goodness, $3,200.
Yeah.
And it's like
rates are different. Like they're gonna fluctuate. Yeah.
Like more than half of his income is like going to his mortgage. And I was just like, dang, some people, they're in a very deep spot. Like I heard, like if you do the math too, sometimes if you invest instead and rent for $1,500 and invest $1,000 into a mutual funds account or some kind of an account that grows, you might actually have more money than the guy who bought that house in 30 years.
Yeah. And that's just in the equity of his home. Yeah. Because like you got to think about it. In order to gain stuff on your home, you have to repair it. You have to make it look nice. You have to make it functional. You have to make sure that it's going to stay there in that neighborhood for a while. Like there are so many aspects that go into like getting assets out of a home that people don't tell you about, especially nowadays. Because the people that are telling you all this they grew up in the time when it was straightforward like this.
Yeah, very simple.
Yeah. And so it's like, they're telling you how to do this, and they may be like fairy dusting a little bit of like the newer kind of like nuances to things, but like they're never going to grasp the entirety of it because of where they gained most of their knowledge. Yeah. And just how different it was gaining that knowledge versus now.
Very different.
It's not straightforward. Nothing is straightforward really anymore.
No, yeah,
and
it's not.
It's you have to be able to become a little bit more dynamic if you want to achieve that comfortability that people talk about. Having a home, having a place to yourself, maybe have a family. And like you were talking about, like you know, your trade-offs are, okay, do I need to buy a house now? Are the rates good? Am I going to be able to afford it in 5 years? Yeah. Am I going to be able to do this and afford the house? Yeah. That kind of thing.
What kind of life will I give myself or my children?
Yeah.
Like, okay, now I'm a slave to my job, my babysitter. Like some guy, I recently talked to a guy. We were talking about his life and his personal life and how he raised his children and all that. And he said, he's like, I really regret. Well, he didn't say he regretted too much, but he said, well, yeah, he regretted it. That he worked so much with his wife that his children eventually were more attached to the babysitter than to him.
Yeah.
And his wife. Yeah. That the children were just pretty much completely educated by the babysitter. And I'm like, dang, that's tough, because a lot of those kids sometimes, they can be more more attached to other people instead, and then they don't take advice as much from the parents,
or they neglect them, or they forget about them.
They forget about their parents because they felt neglected by the overworking, just to have this big nice house where eventually no one's gonna live there because there was no time for love, no time for quality time.
I'm starting to know that, because I got a cat. His name's Salem. He's a little black puffball. Oh, he's fat, but we love him. He's at the happy weight,
Yeah.
But he one of the things is like, again, another trade-off, and this goes back to like education, workforce. Like, I got a cat, One, because I'm a student. I was in my apartment a lot. I was kind of by myself. Like my roommates, I had roommates, but like it wasn't constant just because of the schoolwork that I was doing. And like unfortunately with architecture, you're not going to lose your friends, but you're not going to see them as much. And so you need to intentionally make time for them. So I got a cat because they're social creatures, but they also like their own space, but like they also really like interaction. And a lot of the things that this cat has taught me is about patience, being there, present in moments, like making time to play with this cat because this cat is inside. It's in an apartment. It's not always able to do the things itself because it gets bored. And so like making me take a step back from my work and just focus on time with him. Yeah, just to spend time. Like even if it's not even just playing, it's just sitting there laying next to him. And we're just sitting there hanging out. I could be on my phone, I could be reading, but his presence, my presence, right next to each other. Yeah. That's the time that I take away from what
the quality time that he wants.
Yeah, the quality time that I would like to spend on doing something away from my work, but also the quality time.
He's both enjoy it.
Yeah, and so like that is similar to kids. Like cats are very similar to kids. They have personalities. More so than dogs. Dogs do have personalities, but cats are just they're a little bit more humanistic about it. Yeah. And with kids, like they want to go do their own things, but not all the time do they have the ability, skills, or whatever to do it. And so your parents have to fill in those gaps. And if you're not there, those kids never gain those experiences, which then can translate into when they become older. Can cause them to experience problems, etc. But it also, in that moment, it makes them question the relationship or the interactions that they're having in their present moment. Not just with their parents, but with their friends, with their teachers, other people outside of that, how they act in the store, how they act in public spaces. Like, it translates.
It does, yeah.
And so, like, that finding time to, like, separate yourself from the work that you're doing is important, and then applying it to the things that are important to you is important. So I'm blanking on where we were going with that. You might chime in.
No, you're good.
Like that approach to things is like you kind of have to do a lot more analyzing nowadays, and I think a lot of that comes from education. Circle back to what we were talking about here, and we were talking about the animals too. Like the aspect of like quality time and the importance of kind of like what we were kind of focusing on was kind of like housing and your money and seeing how you can use your money to do things that you value. For example, spending time with your cat, spending time with your mom, your parents, your children. You don't have kids, obviously, but for whoever does, right? Yeah. Like just valuing your time and your money, and maybe even considering investing versus buying a home. Might actually be a better idea. There's a lot of financial advisors, Edward Jones and stuff like that. People that they'll help you out and help you invest. Or there's other people local around here, like my uncle here, Primerica, they do investments and stuff. Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, what do you want to do? Do you want to get tied down with all your money? You can't do nothing, or do you want to tie some of your money into investments and still have money to take your cat out, take your family out, go do some fun things, buy yourself a nice shirt, versus, I can't even afford a shirt now because my money's tied down, like, and and it maybe even the last thing, maybe even sometimes because you want to, fit the status quo and impress others, and it's like that's not going to be a good life. It's going to be very stressful. Sometimes I will say you kind of have to in order to get to a next step. There are very small cases, like for instance, job interviews, especially in the corporate world. Like, unfortunately, man, it's going to be a lot more difficult to try to change the entirety of the corporate world than it is to just kind of like mold until you get into the spot. Then you have more leverage once you get in there to change, adjust, be yourself, that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, you have to kind of dress for par too.
You have to dress for par.
Yeah, you can't just show up in your freaking pajamas.
Yeah.
To the interview and be like, well, they gotta judge me for who I am.
Yeah. You're not going to a Target interview. You're not going to a Zoomies interview. You gotta you gotta actually put on a show here. And present yourself in a way that's not, I don't know, mature.
I saw I think I saw a senator or something, someone in Congress who would dress super very, very casual.
Oh, no way.
He wouldn't wear a suit or nothing. I don't know. I saw some it was a podcast. They were just showing pictures of this guy who worked for the government, and he would just dress because he found out that he didn't have to dress to par, and so he was just like, I'm not gonna dress to par. No one else followed along. People looked at him weird.
Yeah.
But sometimes, in my opinion, it's probably better to kind of, in some areas, some instances.
The status quo, I think, is there as a tool, not as a.
But he doesn't need to have the newest BMW.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Stuff like that. If everyone else is driving, you don't need it.
No.
You're barely getting you're starting at 22. You're eventually gonna be at 40, but it's you're not at 40.
Yeah. You're not there yet.
Yeah.
Take some time.
Yeah. Accept where you're at right now and enjoy it.
Yeah. Yeah. There's oh gosh, what was that? Blanking. The oh god, that thought went away.
No, you're good.
No, that's gone.
No, you're good. Well, we were just pretty much just talking about, housing and how, and your income, and obviously you have to sometimes dress to par to
trade-offs.
You have to. You can't always just, like I said, be 100%. How you want to be.
Yeah.
You have to kind of pretend a little bit. Not necessarily be fake, but.
It sucks too because
they do say sometimes fake it till you make it. In some scenarios, it's true. Sometimes it's not.
Yeah.
Especially in relationships, you can't fake it till you make it.
No.
If you don't feel it in your heart, don't pursue it.
Yeah, because that's gonna be a lot more damage coming down the pipeline if you don't.
Just be real, be honest.
I would say there was one thing though that I wanted to talk about personally with this is that. To each their own. Whoever decides, you graduate college or you graduate high school, proud of you first of all. Okay, one, that's a big step, and that's a hard, difficult step, especially at your age of 18. The one thing that I will stress is think about what you want most next. Analyze it and decide whether or not going out into the profession is going to be your best bet or going to education. Personally, I think that if you've already gone through high school, and this is how I think about it, it's better to continue on that same path until it's officially done. And that is a little confusing in its sense because you're constantly learning, you're constantly doing this. But what I'm talking about is the structure of it. The structure of education is you go to school, you learn these things, maybe you test on them, maybe you prove that you know these topics. And that is a mode of thinking that is difficult, but it's easier to continue when you do it consistently. So that's why there's a big push, or there is constant this push for high school, college, job, that kind of thing. The job is based on your decision. It's not based on what you studied. It's not based on what profession you want to go into. It's based on what you want.
Yeah.
And so whether or not you go from college right to an architect or from college to where I'm at, I'm working at Zoomies, okay? I have a part-time position at Zoomies right now. I have 25 hours a week, okay? And I just graduated after 6 years of college, and I've got my master's in architecture. And I've had 5 offers from firms that I don't want to take just because I know, one, it's not financially viable, but also because that's someone who's seeking a fresh graduate. And that's a different topic.
They just want to take advantage of you.
Yeah.
And they want to lock you in probably for 3-4 years at a low pay or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's more of like an opportunity to use you.
Yeah.
Not necessarily an opportunity to help you.
And that's kind of one of those things that students tend to fall into is like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go right into the profession. It's like, oh well, like, are you sure you want to do that?
Yeah.
You sure? And so like, my way of thinking about it is maintain that same structure until it's done, and it's completely done. And that would be at the end of that 4 years of college, 6 years of college, however long you go to college for. If you're there for 4 years, there you go. If you decide to continue, you can do it. But after that, that is when the deciding factor of your job takes place. And that is the part that is going to propel you into your future. And that's what's going to keep you stable. That's going to decide where you're going, what kind of pathways you have open, that kind of thing. And so for me, I knew that I wanted to be in a firm. I want to someday run my own firm. Okay. And I know that I need some experience. I know I need some skills in various different aspects in order to do that. I wanted to get my education out of the way. One, because I know it's going to be the most expensive, more expensive than just going out into the profession. I know that because student loans, constantly paying on those. It's hard to really pay them down as soon as they tell you can. So that, but also because it's like, I've already done this much schooling. I've made it to graduation of high school. I already know what I'm doing. This is easy to maintain this kind of structure. I want to continue that. I want to get it over with. I don't want to have to like jump from structure, no structure, structure, no structure, and then have to relearn each of the structures each time I do. Because it's like training wheels. When you don't ride a bike for a while, you kind of forget how to ride a bike, or you forget how to drive in a way. And so it takes you a while to get reacclimated into things, which is time that is taking away from what you could be learning or what you could be doing in that time. So like, for instance, if I was to graduate high school and then go out into electrician trade, and then maybe after 5 years, I'm like, I want to go back to school. Now you're like, okay, I'm going to go back to school. But now you have to kind of like refocus a little bit more so on how to approach school effectively so that you can get what you want out of it.
Yeah.
A lot longer than if you had just gone from high school to college.
Yeah.
It's that buffer period that kind of like resets you, and you take a little bit longer, and it could be discouraging because you're not quite getting it initially. And so for me, I chose to go from high school to college specifically for that reason. Afterwards, I wasn't really worried about it, but I did know where I wanted to be. As far as the jobs that I would be doing after I got out of college, like, yeah, I would like to be in a firm. I'd love to, because like, I want to start getting experience. I want to get licensed, and that's a whole long process in itself, and you can really only get licensed once you start getting experience at a firm.
Oh, wow. And so when are you going to start working at a firm?
I would say probably not for the next 5 years.
Oh, so what
if
what would you
I don't
be
get
doing
any good offers.
Hmm.
If I don't get any good offers, I'm probably not going to be working in a firm for the next 5 years. And that's specifically because I want to get experience in framing and electrical. Electrical because I think it's fun, and my dad did it for 30 plus years. But framing because that's the bare bones. That's how you know how to put a building together.
Yeah.
And so putting a building together is a lot more difficult than people think.
Yeah.
And they know. And so like, doing that is going to require certain experiences, and you cannot gain that at school.
Yeah.
Because you're limited. And so the for the next 5 years, my plan is electrical and framing. That's going to give me knowledge in order to communicate with contractors, communicate with builders. And then it's also going to give me knowledge on how to approach business, because construction is a business. And it will further my knowledge as I get to the point where, okay, now I want to start a firm. I've been working in the profession for so long, maybe for 10, 15, 20 years. And then after that, I'm like, okay, I want to start my own firm. That knowledge that I gain now is going to help me later down the road in finding contacts for building buildings. Because like, I worked with these construction workers, these companies. And so like, there could be companies you find that are reputable, and you're like, yeah, I want to work with them. It gives you context, it gives you information, it gives you sources, it gives you resources that you can access just like that.
Yeah.
And so, like, that 5-year plan is something that I want to stick to, that I'm not really focused on the jobs that I'm doing just because they're not enjoyable or they're not fun. Like, I know they're not going to be always enjoyable. Yeah. And I know they're not always going to be fun, but they're going to have their moments. But the payoff is at the end. Yeah. And that knowledge, the resources, and the access that I have to things is going to be what's worth time that I spent away from my profession.
Exactly.
The 5-year plan thing that I'm talking about is like that ending is what's going to give me that payoff, because like when I do go out into a firm, that aspect that I went to 6 years of school. And instead of going right into the profession, I took a step back and I went and I applied myself to building for the profession, wiring for the profession, and navigating that area of the profession. So those are going to be resources that my employer is going to look at when I'm in an interview. It's going to be like, this person knows how to put buildings. This person just graduated college and doesn't show that he knows how to make buildings. That person is going to be smarter than this person because of that experience. But that was because I chose to go out into that area of the profession after my schooling. Not before, and not skipping that to just jump right into the profession. So it's going to be a lot more marketable for me as far as the skills, the knowledge, the approach, and things that I can bring to that firm, so that they can excel. They can become better with the knowledge and stuff that I bring to the table. And so, like, that kind of payoff, I think not a lot of people think about in terms of, like, deciding whether or not they want to jump right into the profession after college, or if they want to go tour the world for a little bit, get some breadth of experience in hospitality or traveling or like helping people, like that kind of thing. And so, like, those things are marketable as far as getting the job that you want, not necessarily the job that is just going to suffice.
Yeah, like whatever is good for now.
Yeah, like, and like, sometimes that's important. Yeah. I can't deny that.
I feel like it would probably maybe be the case for you if you had like already like some kids and stuff, and you're just like, I need money now, so you just like kind of just take whatever there is, you know. Yeah. But you have more, like right now, obviously, like, you know, you don't have kids, and you're more in a position where you can kind of be a little more picky. Yeah. You know, and kind of like,
I have the luxury.
The luxury, and prepare yourself more.
Yeah.
You know, like you said, dabble into other areas before fully, you know, becoming an architect. Yeah. You know, like you're into, like, you know, you said a little bit of the electrical and potentially looking at framing, and I don't know if you mentioned plumbing. I think plumbing. Yep. So yeah, like just different aspects, you know, first before going, you know, into it hardcore.
Yeah, and I think to kind of like bring in some kind of summary for all of this is the one of the biggest things that I will say is a contributing factor, and it's kind of a deciding factor too, is the initial support network that a person or individual has when trying to make a decision on education versus going out into the profession. A lot of the deciding factor does come from money. It, like, whether or not you have the financial stability to afford to go to education or higher education, and then also if you have the skills and like you're there, you want to learn, like you went through high school, it's like, I want to go to college. But a lot of that is based on the family support network that you have going into schooling in general. A lot of the issues that present themselves within education specifically come from or start from the lack of support or awareness that a family, because I don't want to call it any specific one piece of a family, has for the kids that are going through the education. And that again, is because the parents grew up in a specific way and they never really learned how to change that. And you can't change that. You can work towards it, but you can't initially change that. And so when you're going through your education, the one thing that you really want to find is a support network, people who want to help you. And I cannot stress this enough. Your teachers want to be there. They just need you to reciprocate. That's it. You probably have had bad teachers in high school where it's like, oh, this teacher's not really nice to me. It doesn't seem like it. I'm getting bad impressions, or she doesn't think, she's just failing me intentionally. Da, 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 da. No. The teachers want to be there. The teachers that we had, they went to the profession because they wanted to be there. Yeah. I would say it's getting less so now. Yes. There are teachers out there that are just like, oh, I like designing my classroom, or I like this aspect of it.
Just for the money.
Yeah,
there's a lot of people that just do it for the money.
Or just doing it for the money.
All right, here's a packet, guys.
Yeah.
Learn.
Yeah. And like that's changing now, but like the teachers want to be there, and you will know the teachers that want to be there because they're going to show up with a smile on their face. And they're going to show up and they're going to do stuff with purpose. They're going to want to teach you these things. And those teachers, even though they may not show it, can be misinterpreted by the actions and things that they do and how the students interpret it. But know that the teachers want to be there. They want you to learn. So they're going to be more inclined to answer your call for help when you call for help. So if you're not getting help on your math homework at home, ask your teacher. I need help with this math. I want to learn. I don't have the same help that I get here at home, and I would like this. Yeah. They would be more than happy to figure out a way to accommodate you the best that they can in order for you to become the best person for yourself. Exactly. And unfortunately, that's where that kind of confusion with the line between family and education is being challenged right now, and like the knowledge surrounding that, but they want to be there. The help will come if you ask for it. And so that support network is vital to one, deciding which avenue you're going to take as far as college or just going right out into life and hitting it full force. But that support network is very important to kind of build up and build upon, not just in high school, if you can, because not everybody knows about it. But in college, if you choose to go to college, if you choose to go out into the workforce, find that support network. And do so meticulously, do so with awareness, pay attention to what you're saying. What, why, and how are you doing things is a great way to start. That is a basic for critical thinking, especially within architecture. It's, what am I doing? What do I want to do? Why am I doing it? Why do I want to do it? How am I going to do it? And how am I able to do it best? Because that having that like kind of standard is what's going to define the decisions that you make in that process. And so I think having that kind of support network for me, coming from my parents, which like my mom asked me, she's like, do you have homework? And sometimes I'll be like, no. She's like, you have homework. Go do your homework. And I'm like, okay. So I went and did my homework. And it's like having someone there that's kind of like on top of hold you accountable, wondering about, it's the accountability partner. And it's that structure that's like, okay, I do need to do this. I don't want to do this, but I got to do this. And that challenging aspect of doing the things that you don't want to do comes from having the accountability of someone's like, did you do your homework? Did you read? Did you do this? Did you do that? And that helps you kind of build that understanding of, one, the discipline, but also the support that other people are providing to you that can maybe take a load off of you once you're out in the life of whatever you decide to do. I think that a lot of people who don't have support networks or have the luxury of support networks are constantly wondering why something is the way that it is, or they're constantly fighting the same struggle and they're not necessarily sure how to get around it, but they found ways that adjust or accommodate for that. But it's not quite the same as having the support network. And so in a way they're having to work harder, if not more so, doing more than is necessary in order to make up for that not having that support network. And that could cause more stress, which just spirals and spirals and
makes it even worse. Yeah,
adds to things, and so it just makes it more difficult. But I would say that if you're going to decide college or the workforce, is make sure that you have a support network that's going to keep you in check for that.
Yeah.
Because that's going to be the biggest thing that's going to provide you those initial resources. Like, for instance, my dad worked as an electrician for 30 years. He worked at a very specific place. I can use that contact that he has as a possible job for the future. As like, that's the first place I'm going to go and ask for a job from when it's time. In the spring, I'm going to Sage Tree and I'm going to be like, hey, I've got a friend here and myself that want to work for you guys. We want to learn about the trade. Do you have a job position for us? And because my dad worked with them, they know how he functions. They know how he works, his work ethic. And I'm his son. Yeah. So somehow that translation came into me. And so now the hope is that I'm going to be like him, if not better. Yeah. And they're going to gain from that. Yeah. So that kind of contact, that support network really is what's going to open the doors, offer opportunities for you that are going to be less accessible than someone who didn't have a support network. Exactly. And I think that translates into like a biggest part of like the misinterpretations of like one person having more so than the other, or like having easier access, and like the recognition that you have that access isn't always acknowledged with the person. So I think that's also important, but that's another side topic. Yeah. But I'd say whatever pathway you choose is going to be beneficial. Yeah. But know that either pathway is going to be difficult. Yeah. It's going to have trade-offs, and you may or may not always get exactly what you sought out to accomplish. Best example to kind of better understand that, for those that may not understand what just said, is if you are religious. What I have understood, because I'm not particularly religious, but I do have an understanding of it, is that saying God works in funny ways. When you ask God for something, you have a very specific image you have in mind. You want this. Not all the time, and if so, more often than not, he is going to answer in a very indirect way. It's not exactly what you wanted, but it is an aspect of what you wanted. Yeah. And so that kind of understanding that you may or may not get exactly what you wanted is similar to that. Yeah. And how it may not be exactly what you wanted, but it is an aspect. And so that's part of that process. Okay, where are the other aspects coming from? Yeah. Is this going to help me find those? That kind of thing. Yeah. I'd say is kind of like a big understanding of that.
Yeah, so, how you kind of wrap all that together. Yeah. It makes a lot of sense.
It does. And it's like, because like with that particular like analogy, like I know that was confusing for me to figure out, because like I didn't go to church as a kid. Like I don't know the whole like deep basis or the deep understanding around like what God, religion offers, God and all of that. And I know that it's a popular topic, and I know that it has some legitimate sense to it because it's been working for so long.
Yeah. And for a lot of people, it really gets them through a lot.
Yeah. And so like that has always been something that I've used as far as like this idea of understanding how to navigate this kind of like
God works in mysterious ways.
Yeah, life does too.
Yeah.
It really does. It gives you apples when you wanted lemons. Yeah, or it'll give you an orange and an apple when you wanted a lemon and a pomegranate. Yeah. And it's like, wait, okay, I'm getting citrus, but like, what is this? Yeah. Is this in a pomegranate?
Yeah, like what is this? Yeah.
What are we doing here? What are you trying to tell me? And so it's that. Yeah, I would say that's probably an easier way to understand that. So I don't know, like anything that I've said so far that's like relates or is like you have questions about. Because I know that a lot of the things that I say can be kind of like all over the place. One, just from experience, but two, it's like I can connect dots in my head, but not all the time do they connect with other people. And so like I always like to ask that if like people have understood kind of what I said or what I shared, or if like any of it makes sense, or like if it's
no, it does make sense. Yeah, it does make sense. Okay. Yeah, and I like how overall like, you know, you even have some kind of a sense too, of connecting your own thoughts and beliefs even to how God works. Yeah. You know?
Like it's hard to live in a world that just started like that. And
like you believe in some kind of a God.
There's something. I'm not going to put a name on it. I'm not going to put a face to it, but like there's something out there that is above us all that is there and it's present. And personally, I don't want to know what it is. I would like it to keep doing what it's doing because that's what brings the kind of like surprise to life. The enjoyment of it is like, you don't know how we got here. Like, yeah, I was born. My mom and dad, yeah, they did their thing. But like, we don't know how we really got here. And I think that is so much better to know rather than knowing why we're here. Because I feel like it throws stress, confusion, and things into the mix that is not.
I feel like it depends. So, for example, like for me, the answer to, like, why are you here? Yeah. You know, like my answer to that, and based on my like experience with God and religion, all that, is our purpose in life here is to love. Yeah. You know, to love, which means to show. Okay. That's what Christianity teaches us, is that we are here placed on earth to love others, you know, and sometimes to love others is just to be there for somebody, you know, you know, and then also to worship God, you know, and what worship doesn't necessarily always mean that you're like somewhere kneeling, you know, you know, sometimes
or praising Him constantly.
Yeah, it could be you offer your work for the day for Him. You know, you offer something that you're gonna do later. You know, even a hike. So that's kind of how people worship constantly without having to necessarily kneel all the time. As a Christian, that's what I believe, right? Okay. But the whole point of why did He put us on earth is to love. You know, like in Corinthians it says something about that in the last days you will not be measured by all the accomplishments and all the things that but by the measure in which you loved, you know. And it's like
how you showed respect to other people, how you like communicated with other people, how you interacted with other people,
how you cared,
cared,
you know, your intentions in your heart, you know, and like how patient, you know, how kind you were, you know. Obviously those are just definitions of love: patience, kind, you know, respect, you know, and all that, and that's what gives people peace. Yeah. You know, because obviously you didn't know this before, right? Before I told you this, but like if you didn't know that, it would spark confusion and like not knowing what. But when you define it in that way through the Word of God, the Bible, you find that okay, like God's purpose for me is to love, you know, and what's interesting is we believe in a relational God, which means He wants us to love Him, and He wants us to love Him first, and then everything else, which means He wants us to have a constant communication with Him, which is kind of like, for example, like you know, you might just write down and figure your own thoughts by yourself, right? You know, but you're writing, but He wants to be involved in that.
So it's kind of like you have someone to bounce an idea off of.
Yeah, so you believe in this thing called God, right? Yeah. Which, you know, we believe it's real, right? But you bounce all your ideas and everything to Him first, and then everything else comes to be.
It's kind of like you know? Like a similar thing like you're talking about for me is like, it's like I'm sitting here, maybe I'm experiencing a problem. It's like, okay, how do I solve this? That question is like me asking him. Like that would be like you asking God about an idea that you're having, or like, how do I get through this?
The majority.
What do I do?
So, for example, like you without God, it's just you and yourself trying to navigate through life.
Your subconscious.
Yeah, your subconscious. Yeah. And when you have God, it's more like you have obviously yourself, you have your thoughts, but you also have this higher thing, you know, that can help you, and it's not always gonna be telling you, like you said, the right answer or something that you want to hear right away. Yeah, but at some point, His plan will be revealed, and the whole thought of He has a plan, right? Because in the Bible it says, I think in Isaiah it says something, I have plans to prosper you and not harm you, to bring you hope and a future. Yeah. So it's like, that's really beautiful words, right, from God, you know, that He wants the best for us, right? Yeah. So being able to rely on that word of God, right, gives you peace. Because you're just like, okay, maybe right now things don't make sense. Maybe this relationships didn't work. You know, maybe I'm not in the best path right now. Yeah. But I know that if I keep relying on God and I do my part, because you can't just sit there, I will be in a good direction. And that makes you walk in peace. You know, and peace doesn't mean no problems. It's more like, you know, you're reliant on God in the middle of all the hardship. You know, and it's like learning to, this one guy said, Saint Francis of Sales, I think his name was, he's like, the greatest virtue in life that you can learn is to learn to suffer well, which means to learn to suffer through life with God's help, you know? So it's like, you're not going to go through life in a beautiful, perfect journey. It's going to be curvy and it's going to be edgy. Yeah. But if you have God with you, it's going to be a better or a more well path. You know? Yeah. And that's pretty much what the people that are really religious and genuinely have a relationship with God, that's how they live daily. Every day they live thinking, God, I might have this cancer and right now I'm laying down and I could be restless and I can be scared. But Lord, I know that you're journeying with me through this pain, you know? And that gives you peace, which is crazy. Yeah. It's like insanity in a way, but it's not, because it's real. Yeah. Because God is real, which is kind of crazy.
And
you know?
In translation for that, like for those that may be watching or listening that aren't necessarily religious and would like a translation, is like in that it's this idea of coming to terms with things.
Yeah, like, acceptance too.
Acceptance, yeah, acceptance is a good word. The like for me, death, I'm not afraid of it. I kind of accept that it's there, like it could happen at any moment. Yeah. And so that like removes that kind of like external worry. Like, oh, I don't want to die. I don't want to do this because it'll cause this, or I don't want to hurt myself because of this. It's like that is something that's like you've accepted, you've come to terms with it, and you're not going to allow it to define how you approach things, how you go about doing things.
You're not going to live in fear.
Yeah, you're not going to live in fear. You're not going to you're not going to wake up one morning and it's like, oh, your friends ask you to go cliff diving. It's like, oh, well, no, I don't want to do that because I don't want to possibly this. And it's like, well, no. What, like, let it be. Like, it's going to happen when it happens. Don't let it prevent you from doing things.
Obviously, you know, avoid situations that
of course, yes.
You know, jump off bridges. Like, you know, I come to terms with death. And
that's the part you want to stress is like, don't overdo it. Don't, like, just... Like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go jump off the bridge just because I can. I'm not afraid of that. No, don't do that. Yeah. Like, let's be smart about it. But like, don't allow it to prevent you from getting that job. Don't allow it to prevent you from getting that paycheck that you want, or getting that car that you want, or getting that that location, that prime location for your house that you want. Or the next movie that you want to get, that kind of thing. Don't let it prevent you from doing that.
So I feel like in a way, you believe potentially in what's called like fate, maybe, like you're destined to be something, or destiny, like you have a path and you have and you're destined to be somewhere, and you're gonna, like, you have a set path. Or do you believe in like you kind of make your own journey? Or do you feel like you have a predestination? Like you're gonna be somebody because you're born to be that? Or do you feel like, how do you feel about that?
I would say the fate aspect plays a part, but plays a part in, I know I can get somewhere. not that I know I want to be someplace. I have fate. I believe that there's fate decided already for me that I can get to this pot. Because I feel very confident about getting to owning my own firm.
So maybe what you're saying is you believe in pathways, maybe not a pathway.
I would say that would probably be a good way of describing it. I think
that's actually the whole concept in Christianity as free will. That's what we consider free will. It's that there's multiple paths, to get to somewhere where God wants you to be, but it's your choice to choose one. Yeah. Or dabble in a few. Yeah.
I have speaking on like what particularly what this concept is. I have been told that there's a lot of times where things that I talk about and how I present the information that I talk about has a lot to do with Buddhism and not Hinduism, because that's completely separate. Buddhism is basically, it's not a religion, but it's a way of thinking. It's a way of approach. But it gets kind of practice in a religious aspect, which religious is synonymous with like discipline. It's like you got to practice it in order for it to really do something. Yeah. And so like with Buddhism, there is this aspect of free will and pathways, but there is also the aspect of fate. But it's not in where you're going to be. It's what you're going to go through to get to that place. Because that place is not decided in that particular way of thinking. Because you're the person who decides that. And how you get there is going to be tumultuous. It's going to be dangerous. It's going to be hard. It's going to be difficult. Like, you're going to have tough times. You're going to have easy times. You're going to have fun times. You're going to have bad times. You're going to have sad times. You're going to have all of this stuff. But the place that you get to is going to be vastly different than what you imagined, say, 10 years prior. And so that, like, having, like, it set in stone that you're going to be here and here only, I feel is a little bit misleading. But I do see how it can be a driving force for getting to that place. Of, like, you want to be there, and this is my path that's decided for me in that. Yeah. And so that's why I would say the pathways and the determined, like you like, this is who you're going to be, this is where you're going to be, is not applied to the actual end goal. It's applied to the pathway in the way that I have approached it and thought about it. So I would say I agree with you that, like, it is about the journey and the determination of it, but it's not the end goal that's being determined for you. It's the pathway that's being determined for you. Is how I would say it.
Wow, the pathway is determined for you. So you would say, like, so if you believe that the pathway is determined for you, that means that you're walking through this journey, and things are already set up for you. They're in a way.
Yeah. Okay. The steps are there. You just need to take them, and that's where that idea of free will and free choice comes in. Okay. Yeah. So then there would be then multiple journeys. Yeah. And it'd be hard because it'd be hard to be on just one path. That'd almost be like if you were pre-programmed, like if you were pre-programmed to. Are we all robots?
No, I was saying like let's say if we were to believe in that there's just one path. Yeah. And that's it. It's like of our life from one place to another. It's like God just made us with a certain programming, and we're just pretty much, we just have this code and that's it. Versus free will, where it's like God gave you the freedom to choose through that journey, to go into some hills and to go into some journey and in there He wants to journey with you. You know what I mean? That's kind of like the Christian way of saying it, where it's like you have a journey. You're gonna have multiple ways of moving through it, but it's not an exact it's not like a
step by step.
Well, you're not being controlled. There you go. That's what I'm trying to get to. You're not being controlled. There is a plan that God has, right? We believe He wants us to be saved, right? He wants us to go to heaven, right? But in that journey, you have the ability to be with him or not. So I feel like there is a path that he wants you to follow, but it's like us, we're kind of like a needle. We kind of move in and out of that path, and there's no like, you're stuck on one needle, like there's no squeaky clean person, especially if you meet somebody that says they are.
Don't trust them. That's a red flag. Don't.
No.
Yeah,
like
no.
There's no perfect person walking the earth.
No, there's not.
I prefer people that just be honest with when they're messing up. Yeah. I mean, it's just better.
Like, because then you know what to expect instead of sitting there like, okay, wait a minute. Now I'm questioning, like, what's going on here?
Exactly.
And so it's like, it's better way to lead. And like you're talking about, I would say that like I was talking about, the pathway is not necessarily the defined aspect. It's the things that you will experience along the way.
Yeah.
Those are the defined things. Mm-hmm. And how that adds up, because like a math equation, you add 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 10 plus 20, and then you get some randomized number that comes out at the end. And that randomized number is going to be who you are at the end of your journey. Yeah. That is up to your choice.
Yeah, the makeup of you make your own character pretty much.
Yeah. And so the steps that you go through are predetermined in a way that is like, okay, if you have a vision of where you would like to be, these are possibly the things that you have to experience in order to get there.
Okay.
And you choosing brings in that free will aspect. Is like, you can choose to continue to follow your pathway, you can choose to stray away and then revert back, or you can choose to go completely separate after following it for a little while. But ultimately, where you end up is what's going to be determined by the steps that you took, and those steps can be determined for you. Yeah. So I would say that's an interesting kind of like connection there. I've learned a little bit about religion from you just now, about that, and kind of the relationship, and it put it into perspective for some of the things that I've like, okay, is that like in particular the whole like determined pathway that you talked about that God has for you, like that always kind of confused me. It's like, what, like are they considering the aspect of human nature and free will, or is it like, I don't know, I never really understood that until now, and so now I kind of have a better idea of like what it is and what it means. And now talking about it and like how I think about it, with, again, not having gone through church or been religious, but looking at it from the perspective that I have gained, now I kind of see the translation.
How it kind of makes sense.
And that's really interesting, yeah.
Yeah, and that's what we believe in. We believe that as long as you're walking in the path that God wants you to walk, you're walking peace. Because like the journey that God has for you, whether it's being in architecture or something else, like whatever God wants you to do, when you're doing it, you're gonna feel peace in it. Yeah. And that prevents you from being anxious and restless. Yeah. Because a lot of people are living in a very confused life where they're just like, am I doing the right thing? Yeah. Am I going the right path? And they just have all that weight on themselves. And when you finally translate it and you put it to God, you're just like, okay, this is the best I can do right now. Like you were talking about, what's the next right thing? Next, and the next step, the next right step. And when you're walking with God and you're trying to just do the next right step, like along the way, you feel peace. Versus somebody that might be taking those steps, but every time they take a step, they still feel lost. Because that's okay. Yeah. Well, I was just saying, they feel that is okay, but it can lead, if you don't have some kind of like affirmation that you're doing good. Good point. Good point. Which whether it can, because it could come from God, right? Where you feel that affirmation, or like you were mentioning, it could come from supporting people. Like your mom's like, it's okay. Yeah, it's okay to feel stressed. It's okay to feel lonely at times through this journey, but you'll get there. And your mom, or your dad or whoever you have as a supporter will give you that energy to keep going. But for those that don't even have parents or they don't have a relationship like that, the Word of God does that.
You can, yeah.
You know, yeah, it can give you that supporting feeling of you will get through this hard time, you know. And it's kind of like interesting. Like the Bible kind of like the word of God is kind of like a lot of positive affirmations in a way.
Yeah.
You know, like a lot of like you will get through it. Don't worry. Yeah, you can do this.
Yes.
You know, like don't be fearful. You know, like trust in God, you know, and all this stuff. And it really does make a difference for a ton of people. And then obviously there's people who distort the Bible and the Word of God, and they use it to condemn others and shame people. And
you're not being good enough.
Yeah, yeah. You know, you haven't been to church, Johnny. You know, why haven't you been to church?
Yeah.
You know, you're just such a sinner, and it's like, you know, you don't know what Johnny's really going through. You know, why is he really out there isolating himself?
Yep.
You know, are you looking at his heart? But I'm glad that today you came today.
Thank you, dude. This was fun. I really had enjoyed this, and I hope that we were able to do another episode.
That would
be a couple of ideas.
Yeah, I would love that. Yeah,
that would be fun. But I'm actually curious to see. Was it Brisetta?
Brisetta, my cousin.
Yeah. I'm curious to see what the topic for that episode is gonna be.
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah. It's gonna be interesting. Gosh. Well, it's gonna be more like her experience in her heart.
Yeah.
You know, with God and all that. But I don't want to talk too much about it just because we're going to leave that for the next.
Yes, sir.
Let the podcast speak for itself.
All right.
But it was really lovely having you today, bro.
Yes, sir.
And God willing,
thank you.
We'll have another second part.
Yeah.
You know.
And then hit this guy up for haircuts.
There you go. Thank you, bro.
Ethan Barber gives him up. Fresh fades, dude. Got him.
Thank you, bro.
Oh, my gosh.
Hey, well, have a lovely day, bro.
Thank you.
It was good talking to you.
Yeah, you too, man. This was fun. Good.